Previously on The Greatest Estate Developer, our hero shattered the corrupt system, raised the sky-high fortress, survived the impossible trials. But the true nightmare looms as enemies converge, alliances crumble, and now, Lloyd married the Winter Heart's absorber, and now Tyrannus is hunting him. Lloyd clutches the ancient contract, desperate to prove his loyalty to the mysterious dragon that saved him. Tyrannus looms, his eyes blazing, demanding the truth about the marriage. Lloyd stammers, trying to recall the hidden vows, but his mind spins with fear and shame. The dragon's shadow flickers, hinting at a secret pact that could topple the kingdom. Lloyd's breath catches as the weight of betrayal settles on his shoulders.
You lie, and the kingdom crumbles.
The dragon's roar promises a reckoning no one expects. Lloyd scrambles to summon the great divine founding dragon, hoping the beast will validate his claim.
Suho blinks awake in Lloyd's wine-sodden chambers, the weight of a mountain-high debt pressing on his chest. He snatches his sketch pad, sketches a gravity-defying aqueduct, and shouts for the hulking hamster to haul the stone. The knight brandishes his sword, eyes wide as the first brick rises, proof that a civil engineer's mind can rewrite a kingdom's fate.
Tyrannus leans in, warning that killing Lloyd will draw the Dragon King's wrath, a danger no one can afford. He threatens the court, insisting that any move against him risks the entire order. Lloyd meets the stare, accepting his fate, yet he refuses to sow chaos as he departs this world. Lloyd slams a napkin-drawn, gravity-defying aqueduct onto the tavern table, forcing Tyrannus to bargain. Win the deadly wager and walk free, lose and fetch the Winter Heart, while the Dragon King roars overhead. He feels his soul teeter between salvation and annihilation, the weight of a dying man's plea crushing his chest as the impossible clause threatens to turn his sacrifice into a legend of murder. The dragon's roar stalls, Tyrannus hesitates, and the final tally of souls flickers, leaving the fate of the Winter Heart and Lloyd's very existence dangling on a razor edge. Time freezes as the Winter Heart is devoured, and the estate erupts into chaos. The narrator, known as the Greatest Estate Developer, watches his world lock in a silent tableau. He wants to understand why everything halted, to seize any advantage before the freeze shatters. The only obstacle is the maddening silence that masks the cause. He forces his mind to pierce the stillness, recalling every contract and spell tied to the heart. The freeze cracks, revealing a trembling pulse of power that threatens to consume everything. He feels the weight of a gamble he never intended to play. He confronts the aging dragon, demanding respect after a lifetime of humiliation. He wants acknowledgement, but the dragon's pride rots under the weight of endless ridicule. He hurls accusations, recalling how he tried to straighten his dragon son, only to be mocked. The dragon recoils, its eyes flickering with old pain, and admits that his family has fractured beyond repair. The confrontation shatters the illusion of unity, leaving both with a hollow ache. The cost is the loss of any remaining familial bond and the birth of a cold, solitary resolve.
No one has ever said that to me before.
Their broken ties set the stage for a ruthless new strategy. The aging dragon shatters its chains of mockery, unleashing a torrent of cursed ash that turns the poisoned soil into a living weapon, while Suho Lloyd hoists the mountain debt ledger into the sky with a steam-powered crane. Brian seizes the moment, demanding respect and threatening to seize the Quan mines. But his allies watch the ground crumble beneath them, feeling betrayal seep through every cracked stone as hope dissolves into toxic despair. The dragon roars, tears a portal in the heavens, and vanishes, leaving the cursed ash swirling, the last essential material Kiaura, still missing, and a fractured alliance teetering on the brink of annihilation.
Suho slams his fist on the cracked stone table, eyes blazing as his engineering mind maps the crumbling manor's veins. He sketches a self-levitating scaffold with charcoal, then commands the giant hamster to haul the weighty foundation stones. Sir Darius Flint watches, jaw slack, while Mira Celine channels Terran force into a glittering lattice, sealing the debt-ridden estate's future in steel and magic.
Suho, now Lloyd Frontera, slams his hand on the drafting table, bolts a wind-powered pulley onto the crumbling estate's main gate. The giant hamster squeals, its massive paws turning the gears as a cascade of fresh water rushes through the parched fields.
A lone villager steps on a delicate flower, its petals trembling under his weight. Suho sees the fragile bloom as a metaphor for his own precarious plans. One misstep could crush everything. He wants the flower's resilience to inspire his troops, to remind them that even small things hold power. The crowd hesitates, fearing that focusing on a flower will waste precious time while enemies close in. Suho lifts the blossom, cradling it like a trophy, and declares it a symbol of their resolve. The crowd's morale spikes, but the flower's scent draws a hidden predator, a massive hawk that circles ominously above. Suho, now Lloyd, snatches the cursed artifact from the demon-cloaked commander amid a raging charge, shattering the bandit leader's twisted partnership and igniting a desperate scramble for the mansion's vault. Lloyd feels betrayal crushing his chest as the villager's fragile hope wilts like the broken flower, realizing one misstep could erase his dream of a new country and cost countless lives. A whispered single digit hangs in the wind, the rusted vault lock trembling, while the snarling bondbear blocks the path, leaving the fate of the estate's rebirth hanging on a code yet unknown.
Suho slams the dusty ledger, eyes blazing as he sketches a self-levitating scaffolding that hoists the Frontera coffers into the sky. He rigs the manor's crumbling aqueducts into a hydropump, flooding the debt-laden vaults with pure gold water. The giant hamster squeals, the night cheers, and the mountain of taxes shatters under Suho's blueprint, birthing a new empire. Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's slumped manor, the house groaning under piles of unpaid taxes. He slams his hand on a dusty drafting table, sketches a self-leveling foundation, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone blocks while the knight sharpens his blade. With sparks of arcane energy lighting the night, the lazy noble's fortunes begin to shift.
The plan spirals as Lloyd declares he'll play the villain perfectly, thinking the role will mask his desperation. He hears a cold voice warning that he won't be acting. He'll be lying through his teeth, a false front that could backfire. The warning cuts through his confidence, exposing the thin line between performance and betrayal. He clenches his fists, realizing any lie could damage the fragile trust he's trying to rebuild. Still, he forces himself to adopt the villain's mask, hoping the deception buys him time. The cost: his integrity teeters on the edge.
The ragged group huddles near the shattered doorway, clutching threadbare cloaks. One of them, eyes wide with fear, whispers that their mana has vanished, leaving them exposed to any lurking threat. He urges Lloyd to find new clothes before they draw unwanted eyes, insisting the loss of magic means no safety net if danger erupts. Lloyd nods, mind racing, aware that without mana his inventions lose power and his plans crumble. He decides to trade precious time for fresh garb, hoping the disguise buys them a moment's peace.
My mana is gone, Master.
The question now is whether a simple change of robes can shield a dying estate.
Lloyd forces the Dragon King's gate open, but the portal emits only a hollow ding, spilling stale disappointment as the truth jewel remains out of reach. He feels his family's hope evaporate, his borrowed body inert in soul, and the mana that once pulsed through his veins vanish, leaving his desperate clan teetering on ruin. The cryptic runechi flares on the glyph, the sky collapses into choking haze, and the ragged survivors whisper that their mana has vanished, leaving them vulnerable to an unknown threat looming beyond the shattered doorway. Matches the master plan. The skyline will crumble before sunrise. Lloyd, actually Suho in a drunk noble's skin, stares at the torn blueprint he just ripped from the council clerk. He needs the land deed to stop his family's debt avalanche. The clerk blocks him, shouting that the contract is sealed. Suho lunges, grabs the parchment, and darts through the crowded market before the guard's sword whistles past. The clerk watches his fortune burn, realizing he just handed the future to a reckless stranger. And that's not even the worst part. The noble's lieutenant questions Suho's state, eyes flickering between him and the trembling crowd. He wants proof that Suho isn't a mad drunk.
Suho, coughing from the choking dust, forces himself to keep moving. He wants fresh clothes to blend in, but the market only accepts cash, and his gold coins sit unverified in his satchel. He spots a merchant's stall overflowing with fabrics, but the merchant eyes his ragged cloak and shakes his head. Suho drops a handful of coins, demanding a quick trade. The merchant counts, frowns, and refuses, citing the need for proof of authenticity. Frustrated, Suho slams his fist on the table, scattering cloth, and the merchant finally relents, handing over a plain tunic for a single gold piece. The exchange costs him the last of his verified wealth, leaving him penniless but clothed.
Lloyd eyes the empty ledger, realizing a proper life means more than survival. He must rebuild honor. He vows to follow the right way, to earn respect through honest labor, not deceit. Yet doubts gnaw. The crown of responsibility feels heavier than any crown of power. He lashes out, demanding the world acknowledge his effort, shouting that no one forced him into this burden. The crowd's silence presses back, a cold reminder that blame still lingers. His voice cracks, but the resolve hardens. He will not become the nothing he feared. What comes next changes everything. Lloyd watches his reflection ripple in a puddle, realizing his worries were shadows against a brighter horizon. Lloyd tears through the courtyard, shattering the ledger's silence as he rallies his crew, his voice a blazing spear that drives the enemy back from the crumbling walls. He feels his false armor splinter, the weight of every lie crashing away, exposing a raw, bruised heart that finally chooses honor over survival, gaining a fierce, honest purpose. A shadowy figure whispers Javier, and the rival's hidden army gathers beyond the valley, leaving the fate of Lloyd's fledgling empire hanging on the edge of an unseen, looming assault.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, the debt-laden banners fluttering like warning flags. He sketches a self-levitating crane, rallies the giant hamster, and commands Sir Beck Jin-ho to clear the cursed quarry. As magical gears grind, the noble's coffers swell, and a skeptical Lord Songguk watches the miracle unfold.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd Frontera's splayed chambers, the scent of cheap ale thick as the mountain of debt looming over his new family. He slams his fist on the drafting table, sketches a self-cleaning aqueduct, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone while Sir Beck Jin-ho eyes the blueprint. The first stone rises, and the noble's whispers crumble.
Suho Kim jolts awake in Lloyd Frontera's swill-stained chambers, the debt-laden banners fluttering like condemned flags. He slams his fist on the drafting table, sketches a self-leveling crane, and commands the hulking hamster to haul stone. The noble's creditors gasp as the first tower pierces the sky. Join the Hari squad with a sub before the system crashes. Lloyd races to the ruined inn where a band of thugs threatens the villagers. He knows the only way to stop them is to use his improvised steam gun, the first of his modern inventions. The thugs block the doorway, brandishing crude blades, confident they can crush a lazy noble. Suho Lloyd slams his fist on the crumbling ledger, eyes blazing as he sketches a river-powered mill on the back of a tavern table. Myra's runic quill flickers, etching the design into stone, while Sir Beck Jin-ho rallies peasants to dig the foundation. Within hours, the mill roars, debts melt like snow, and Lord Songguk's conspirators stare, powerless.
Suho awakens in Lloyd's sullen chambers, the weight of debt pressing like iron shackles. He slams a crude blueprint onto the table, his engineering instinct sparking as he sketches a self-watering irrigation tower. The giant hamster snorts approvingly, the knight sharpens his blade, and magic swirls around the schematics. This audacious design could crush the looming bankruptcy and rewrite the family's fate.
Lloyd unleashes a thunderous barrage of makeshift cannons, shattering the town square as the enigmatic fence thief leader strides forward, the giant hamster snorting ominously beside him. Suho, haunted by debt and abandoned roots, channels guilt into a desperate blueprint, sealing his fate with a river-powered mill that could save the estate or drown his conscience. The spell erupts, ripping the cursed seal as a shadowy force erupts, leaving the town's fate hanging on a trembling vortex that threatens to consume everything. Lloyd's cursed corpse erupts from the earth, the king of hell already treading the mortal realm. The ritual demands a crystal-clear wish, and Lloyd knows the only wish that works is a death wish. The ancient scrolls, eyes flicking over the required tools. A grudge-filled soul, a vessel of fear, and a binding sigil. His mind races. He must locate the perfect corpse before the demon's gate widens. He clenches his jaw, grabs the black ink tome, and begins chanting the verses, feeling the ground pulse under his feet. The air thickens, and a low howl ripples through the dungeon.
Your wish is a blade. Sharpen it.
Lloyd slams the control lever, forcing the next phase of his grand designed to fire without waiting for safety checks. He knows the next step will unleash a flood of construction drones to rebuild the devastated estate in minutes. The machines roar awake, gears grinding, and the air fills with the scent of fresh concrete. As the first tower spikes into the sky, the giant hamster lets out a deafening squeal, shattering a nearby crystal that held the queen's seal. The seal cracks, spilling dark energy that threatens to undo the entire project.
Join the Hari squad with a sub before the system crashes.
Lloyd declares the new vault will sit on his family's land, promising the Merman Kingdom free access whenever they need it. He watches the merman's eyes widen, fearing the unknown dangers of surface trade. He repeats his oath, insisting he never lied, that every word came straight from his heart. A skeptical knight scoffs, muttering that bravery looks like cowardice when the stakes are this high. Lloyd feels a sting of doubt, but he tightens his grip on the blueprint, refusing to back down. The council murmurs, "Everyone satisfied now?" hoping the agreement will calm the rising tension. Lloyd smirks, noting the shift from idealism to cold pragmatism in their faces.
Lloyd hijacks the council's forge plan, demanding the truth jewel be forged in 7-meter deep water on his family's land, sealing a pact that binds the Merman Kingdom to his ambition. He risks losing the merman's fragile trust while gaining unrivaled leverage, as guilt gnaws his throat and a tearful ally offers unrestricted kingdom resources, turning hope into a precarious bargain. A hushed prophecy warns that the Hellgate will devour the jewel's secret unless they uncover how to seal it, leaving the council on the brink of war and the abyss yawning beneath the water.
Truth Jewel detonates, shattering the estate before the developer could even scan. Junwoo eyes the lake, convinced the wide, deep water will cradle the jewel's power. He turns to the lake's owner, pleading for permission, his voice trembling with ambition. The owner hesitates, fearing the unknown energy that could flood his lands. Junwoo snaps his fingers, promising a share of the jewel's answers, and the owner finally nods, granting access. The first foundation stone drops into the water, ripples spreading like a warning. And that's not even the worst part.
Great. I'll start scanning the place.
Junwoo flicks his wrist, activating the floating hollow grid.
Lloyd stares at the towering stone statue he just finished, a dragon frozen in marble that will anchor the new plaza. He wants the monument to symbolize his family's rise from ruin. The massive weight of the stone and the tight deadline threaten collapse. He commands the foreman, coordinates a crane made from enchanted vines, and watches the dragon lift onto its pedestal. The crowd erupts, chanting his name as the final chisel falls. He sighs, feeling the ache of sleepless nights finally melt into triumph. Yet the celebration drains the last of his stored food supplies. The triumph costs his stamina, leaving him vulnerable to the next crisis.
The Count's voice drops, promising details once the storm settles, buying time with a vague promise. The Countess presses, demanding a single answer about Lloyd's current whereabouts, hoping the information will anchor their shaky plan. The obstacle looms. No one knows Lloyd's exact position. Rumors place him at the Prone River, a place of flood and danger. The nobles exchange a nervous glance. Then the Count admits the river's currents have swallowed any trace. Their bluff leaves the steward uneasy, and the estate's creditors sense a crack in the facade, tightening their grip on the dwindling assets. Lloyd dons the heirloom Frontera robes, the crystal gift catching firelight as he declares his new lordship, the plaza's lanterns reflecting his sudden, dazzling authority. His family feels the icy chasm widen, realizing his smile masks a fragile hope while the town's gratitude teeters between reverence and suspicion, threatening the legacy Lloyd desperately seeks to secure. The Count and Countess linger by the ledger clutch table, their urgent questions about Lloyd's whereabouts hanging in the air, leaving the foreman's trembling gift and the looming storm as ominous, unanswered threats.
Lloyd's blood-soaked blueprint ignites the skyline, and the city has only minutes to survive. The Frontera household gathers, eyes darting to the empty throne. Javier demands answers, his voice cracking like a whip. The Countess clutches a silk handkerchief, fearing the loss of her heir. Lloyd's absence hangs over them like a storm cloud, threatening ruin for every tenant. Their desperation fuels a frantic search for any clue that might prove the boy is still alive. Their hope flickers, but every whispered rumor pulls them deeper into doubt.
What are you talking about all of a sudden?
The silence that follows could shatter the entire estate. The council presses on, each word a blade. Lloyd steps forward, sword raised, demanding atonement for his violent mistake. The Count, seething, declares that Lloyd must die for striking his son. Lloyd pleads, desperation cracking his voice, and the Count's guards close in. Just as the blade descends, a frantic shout erupts, halting the execution. The Count pauses, curiosity flickering, while Lloyd clutches his chest, hoping for a miracle. The estate teeters on the edge of bloodshed, and every breath feels like a ticking clock. That what happened? All right then.
Lloyd brandishes his sword, demanding the Count's atonement for the fatal strike, while the Count's fury ignites a deadly duel that threatens to shatter the council's fragile peace. Javier's reckless defense saves Lloyd, but his desperate plea for recognition leaves the noble's trust hanging, forcing him to risk everything for a fragile favor that could secure or ruin his future. A hidden scroll exposing the entire project as illegal surfaces, and the cursed jewels whisper promises rebellion, leaving the kingdom teetering on the brink of war and betrayal. Halts time, promising the truth jewel while the village burns beneath his promise. The crowd gathers, ears straining for hope. He shouts that he will freeze a whole year to finish the dam, eyes gleaming with a plan only his engineering mind can see. Skepticism ripples through the villagers. They clutch tools, fearing a trick. He raises his hand, declares the spell, and the world freezes in a silent gasp. The cost is a ticking clock. Once time resumes, the dam must stand or the entire valley collapses. And that's not even the worst part.
The dragon leans close, whispering, "Let's say you change fate with the truth jewel. What will you do after that?" Suho's eyes narrow. The jewel represents his last shot at securing the village's future. He answers coldly, "I'll destroy it." The dragon hisses, amused. "Having that would bring only headaches. It would ruin my life of fun and rest." Suho feels a strange relief. Removing the jewel eliminates a volatile power that could attract even greater foes. He commands his crew to dismantle the protective casing, knowing the demolition will spark a wave of panic among the villagers who see it as hope. The cost: their trust shattered and a looming void where the jewel's promise once glimmered.
Lloyd demands answers from the silent crowd, his voice cracking like a broken pipe. The workers stare, mouths slack, unable to form a reply as a low, indecipherable murmur hangs in the air. Frustration fuels his fists. He punches the ground, sending dust spiraling upward. The dust masks a faint glow around the dam's foundation, hinting at hidden magic reacting to his aggression. With each failed question, the deadline looms louder, and the crew's morale crumbles like fresh mortar. Lloyd's anger burns hotter, yet the unknown whisper grows louder, promising a new obstacle. An armored envoy steps forward, clutching a sealed decree, intent on halting Lloyd's project.
An armored envoy bursts onto the camp, brandishing a sealed royal decree that orders the immediate shutdown and demolition of Lloyd's half-finished dam as his newly cracked mana heart roars with unstable power. Lloyd swallows a mix of furious empowerment and crushing frustration, fearing he will lose the crew's trust, the dam's progress, and his own sanity if the Swordmaster aura overwhelms his command. The sealed decree hangs in the air, the silent crowd trembling, while the envoy readies his blade, leaving Lloyd's dam teetering on destruction and his newfound power spiraling toward an unknown abyss.
Suho, now the drunken noble Lloyd Frontera, slams his fist on the banquet table, sketches a floating crane on parchment, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone for a sky-piercing tower. With Kim Min-suk's blueprints and Princess Aria's royal seal, he launches the first profit-driven estate, shattering his family's debt in a single thunderous sunrise. Suho, now the slothful noble Lloyd, slams his fist on the ledger, watches the family's debt spiral, then sketches a floating bridge powered by steam and rune-etched gears. The giant hamster thunders forward, hauling stone while Sir Garrick brandishes his enchanted sword to fend off rival goons. With each completed arch, the mountain of owed gold crumbles beneath their new empire.
The workers pause, confused by the sudden silence, as a lone voice mutters nonsense. A glitch in the magical field. The giant hamster snorts, its ears twitching, while the knight tightens his grip on his lance, sensing unseen danger. The spell that once protected the site flickers, leaving a thin crack in the barrier. Everyone feels the weight of an unseen watcher, the tension tightening like a rope ready to snap.
010. Ayo.
A towering figure steps forward, his armor clanking, introducing himself as Javier Azrahan, Knight of Frontera County. He declares the intruders must leave immediately or face his blade, his voice echoing across the courtyard.
Javier Azrahan storms the construction site, brandishing his blade as the angelic hammer descends, shattering the council's seal and igniting a chaotic clash between divine fury and mortal steel. Lloyd watches his retirement dream crumble, his debt-free future evaporating while the terrified kid trembles, fearing the angel's strike will wreck his future marriage and shatter his fragile hope. The angelic hammer hovers inches above the ground, its fate undecided, leaving everyone to wonder whether Javier's blade can halt the divine onslaught, or if the seal's destruction summons an even greater catastrophe.
Suho snaps awake in Lloyd's rickety manor, the debt ledgers screaming red. He rigs a self-watering aqueduct with a hamster-powered turbine, the furry beast squealing as water gushes into the fields. The skeptical knight, Sir Calder, watches the crops sprout overnight and drops his sword, shouting praise. With each contraption, the mountain of debts crumbles, and the noble's future rewrites itself.
Suho as Lloyd slams his fist on the cracked banquet table, shattering the goblet that once funded the family's debt. He sketches a self-levitating scaffold with chalk, then orders the giant hamster to haul the first stone into place.
Suho Lloyd spots a familiar face among the chaos. Javier, the enigmatic merchant who once sold him a miracle pulley. He wants answers, but Javier hides behind a smirk, his eyes glinting with secret knowledge. Suho gasps, "What? Javier? Was he always that cool?" Javier chuckles, "Ah," and hands over a glowing rune, promising it can reinforce the crumbling walls. Suho grabs the rune, feeling its warm pulse. Yet the rune's power drains the hamster's stamina further, leaving the beast trembling on the brink of collapse. The cost: another ally's life force wanes.
What? Javier.
The cursed amulet erupts, blasting shards that ricochet through the hall as Suho Lloyd confronts Javier, forcing the merchant to reveal a hidden blueprint for the truth jewel. Suho Lloyd feels the villagers' lifeless eyes draining hope, realizing his failure could seal their fate and shatter his dream of saving the kingdom. A blinding light erupts from the ancient altar, the unseen force roaring, leaving Suho Lloyd staring at the collapsing scaffold and the unanswered question of who controls the amulet's power.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's body, slams open a dusty ledger, and sketches a self-levitating scaffold with a flick of his engineering mind. The giant hamster thunders beside him, while Sir Valor brandishes a rune-etched hammer. Together they raise the debt-laden manor, erecting a gleaming tower that shimmers with raw magic, proof that a modern brain can rewrite destiny. Suho, now Lloyd Frontera, slams his hand onto a crumbling ledger, eyes blazing. He sketches a Floodgate blueprint on the tavern wall, then commands the giant hamster to haul stone while the knight sharpens his spear.
Suho jolts awake in the opulent yet crumbling manor, his mind buzzing with structural formulas. He snatches a drafting quill, sketches a self-balancing aqueduct, and commands the hulking hamster to haul stone blocks while Sir Garrick steadies the foundation. The nobles gasp as the first stone sets, proof that a modern engineer can rewrite a cursed dynasty's fate. "If I use you, I can take the Eye of Summer."
The broker leans in, whispering a treacherous bargain that forces the angel to consider signing a contract that could hand the Eye of Summer to a scheming noble. The angel feels his fragile hope crumble as the weight of the ink threatens to bind his soul, betraying the people he vowed to protect. With the broker's dark promise looming, the kingdom's fate hangs on a pen stroke, and the swordmaster's cold grin promises a battle that could shatter everything.
Lloyd fumbles with the glowing crystal phone, convinced it can pull news from the heavens faster than any messenger. He argues the device will let him live like a saint even while stuck in the lowlands, hoping the gadget will buy him time. The angel before him demands proof of his celestial rank before granting a second favor, reminding him that his powers were stripped but his aura still glimmers. Lloyd flashes a lingering sigil, forcing the angel to accept the flimsy evidence.
A frantic shout ripples through the courtyard. "Drop the iron ore!" Lloyd darts toward the massive furnace, aware the truth jewel's activation hinges on a perfect ritual. He tosses the crystal into the molten core, chanting the ancient formula, while the crew scrambles to contain the surge. The jewel ignites, flooding the area with blinding light, and a sudden surge of RP points bursts into Lloyd's ledger, marking a legendary achievement. The celebration is brief. The power surge leaves the furnace cracked, threatening a collapse that could flood the valley. With the dam's final stone set, Lloyd yells, "Open the water gate!" The massive concrete wall trembles as the sluice lifts, flooding the lower fields that once lay barren.
You feel the panic rise as the frantic cries pierce the gloom, each shout a lifeline tossed into a storm. Master Lloyd craves a single, steady breath to keep his heart beating, while the unseen force claws at his lungs. The chanting crowd swells, their voices a crushing wave that drowns his resolve. He slams his palm against the cold stone, channels every ounce of engineering knowledge into a makeshift vent, and forces a rush of fresh air into his throat. The gasp he steals steadies his pulse, but the crowd's chant only grows louder. What comes next changes everything.
Aetiroa appears, offering Lloyd a secret bargain. While Lloyd slices the royal bathhouse marble with a paper blade, unleashing a volatile impact wave that rattles the dam's core. Lloyd feels his heart hammer against the chant's maddening echo, fearing the surge will shatter his mind and drown his comrades, while the estate's foundation teeters on collapse. The mana pulse spikes uncontrollably, leaving Lloyd's desperate plea for stability hanging in the stone hall as the unseen force claws nearer, threatening to rip the estate apart.
The Empire's foundation cracks. The mastermind's vault explodes, sealing the city's fate. Suho Kim jolts awake, no longer a student but Lloyd Frontera, a debt-laden noble whose family drowns in taxes. He clutches the memory of engineering formulas, desperate to rewrite a doomed inheritance. The cold wind of the mountain estate bites, reminding him that every night of drinking pushes his family closer to ruin. He decides to sketch a water wheel on the back of a tavern table, hoping the invention will slash the mill's labor cost and by a few precious months. The first blueprint sparks a glimmer of hope among the starving serfs. And that's just the beginning of the chaos. Lloyd eyes the half-finished blueprint, heart racing as he weighs his next move. He declares, "I can do it since I already know the key," his voice steady despite the shaking ground. Memories of countless failures flash, yet each replay steals his resolve. He repeats the mantra, "I've seen it countless times," and feels the ancient gears of destiny click into place. The cost. His pride swells, masking the lingering fatigue that threatens to undo his efforts. The key turns, but the lock still guards a darker secret. Rumors ripple through the celestial halls. The higher realm plans to summon Sir Lloyd. The council's deliberations stretch, dragging time like a slow tide. Lloyd demands the council honor his plea, insisting the heavens' negligence caused the lower realm's suffering. The angels retort that their friendly realm must alleviate that very suffering, creating a paradoxical loop. He bargains. Manage the situation until the crisis ends, promising future gratitude. The angel Gabriel appears, eyes blazing, refusing to be fooled by mortal tricks. The tension spikes as both sides cling to their convictions. What comes next changes everything. A sudden surge of light crowns Gabriel, making Lloyd believe he's truly appreciated. He feels no darkness in the angel's heart, only blinding righteousness. Yet a second condition surfaces, a cryptic request to channel divine revelation through Raphael to the Magenta Royal line.
Lloyd storms the Radiant Council chamber, forces Sir Javier to halt the cursed jewel's demolition, and watches Gabriel blaze with holy light, unveiling a hidden second condition that could seal his destiny. He feels his heart crush under divine accusation, losing the fragile piece he clawed from the lower realm while clinging to a fleeting glimpse of celestial approval that might redeem his shattered appeal. Murmurs brand him an extortionist as another voice cries for justice, leaving the council's true verdict, the price of the second condition, and the heaven's next move hanging on a razor-thin thread. Suho as Lloyd slams his fist on the cracked manor table, sparks flying from a prototype pulley he just welded with dragon-scale alloy. "We'll raise the tax farms before Valen can sink another village," he roars, while Mira sketches a sky bridge and Sir Rowan readies the nightly guard. The giant hamster squeals, its fur humming with raw magic, ready to haul the first stone of their debt-free kingdom. Suho and Lloyd slams the tavern door, brandishing a crumpled estate development manual while the giant hamster gnaws a rope bridge beneath him. He sketches a floodgate on a tavern table, orders Sir Rowan to rally the peasants, and commands Mira to lay stone foundations before sunset. You feel the ground tremble as a horde of unfamiliar beasts claws its way toward the palace walls. Lord Lloyd's forces scramble. They can't tell if the attackers are invaders or rebels. "Who on earth dares to attack my land?" a commander roars, his voice cracking with fury. "They masquerade as holy men, resetting fire on our citadel." Another shouts, panic flashing in his eyes. The sky darkens with an endless stream of monstrous silhouettes, each larger than the last. The kingdom's best knights rally, but the tide of beasts surges faster than any defense. The future of Arya hangs on a single, fragile line of steel.
Infidels masquerade as gods, fire rains down.
Sir Javier surveys the silent throne room, counting the steps left in his grim plan. He knows the kingdom's survival hinges on one final move, and the only piece still missing is the queen herself. With every ally fallen and every secret exposed, he realizes that securing the monarch's allegiance will seal his strategy or bury it forever. He steps toward the vaulted doors, his resolve hardening into steel, ready to confront the ruler and demand her cooperation. The palace doors swing open, the queen's silhouette framed by flickering torches, and Javier braces for the confrontation that will decide who truly controls the realm. The queen's answer will either crown his triumph or unleash a darker war.
Suho Lloyd seizes the throne room, brandishing his blueprint and demanding the idol rebars become a kingdom-wide defensive wall, while an ethereal emissary offers the coveted Eye of Summer. Javier's fury ignites as he confronts the Queen's Council, risking his honor and the fragile alliance with the celestial envoy, while Lloyd's alleged treason threatens to strip him of love and legitimacy. The celestial emissary's true purpose remains hidden. The Eye of Summer hovers ominously, and the Queen's loyalty hangs in balance, leaving the kingdom teetering on the brink of betrayal.
Empire shatters as Lloyd's dying gasp unleashes the Eye of SLM, tearing the sky apart. Lloyd, trembling, faces the angelic messenger who claims he pulled the strings. He demands proof, his voice cracking with fear and fury. The angel whispers that Lloyd himself set the trap, a secret only the dying master knows. Lloyd's mind races. If the truth spreads, his vassals will rise, ending his fragile hold on power. He clenches his fists, refusing to let the act end without a fight, even as his strength wanes. The curse spreads, and the kingdom teeters on the brink. Are you ending this act then? And that question hangs over the ruined throne.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's squalid manor, surveys the towering debt ledgers, and immediately sketches a self-levitating scaffolding system using Wanseong's latent mana. He rallies the hulking hamster, commands the stoic knight to secure the quarry, and orders the first magical water wheel, turning the family's fortunes on its axis.
Suho slams the ancient ledger shut, eyes blazing as he sketches a floodgate that could swallow the Frontera debt in a single night. He commands the giant hamster, Barrow, to haul stone while Sir Garrick steadies the crane with his sword. With a flick of his engineered wand, the crumbling manor rises anew, its foundations humming with Wanseong's first whisper of modern magic. Suho slams the ancient ledger, sketches a night-devouring floodgate, and commands the giant hamster Barrow to haul stone while Lloyd demands proof of the angel's prophecy to rally his vassals. Lloyd teeters on the brink of losing his crumbling manor and the loyalty of his council, while the promised marriage threatens to bind his son to a treacherous ally, amplifying his dread of total ruin. Now the manor's shattered walls stand against an imminent raid. The Eye of Summer remains hidden, and the poised noblewoman's true motives linger, leaving Lloyd's fate hanging on a single, unseen decision. The hall erupts as a shout cuts through the chatter. They stole from the queen herself, and now her majesty wants both their heads. All eyes snap to the trembling servants. The queen's guard tightens his grip on his sword, ready to execute on a whim. The accused clutch the stolen black tea, the only proof of their guilt. Their lives hinge on a single confession that could save them, or seal their doom. The tension snaps like a wire about to snap. Marcos, the queen's eyes narrow as the truth unspools. She asks, "The queen," the noble, eyes wide, mutters a tangled lie about a secret marriage to the crown.
Suho snaps awake in Lloyd's lavish yet crumbling manor, the scent of stale ale mingling with dust-laden ledgers. He slams his palm on the drafting table, sketches a self-leveling crane, and shouts for the hulking hamster to haul the first stone. The skeptical knight brandishes his blade, then nods as the first foundation stones settle, debt trembling under the weight of Suho's engineering genius.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd's dilapidated manor, the scent of stale ale thick in the air. He slams his fist on the cracked table, sketches a self-levitating scaffolding, and orders the hulking hamster to haul the first stone. Lee Jae-hyuk slams the blueprint against the polished oak desk, eyes blazing as he sketches a hidden waterway beneath the city's newest district. Min-soo watches, noting each calculated curve, while Eun-ri whispers, "If we redirect the flow, the floodplain claims disappear." Across town, Han Sung-woo receives a cryptic telegram, his grin fading as the plan unfolds, and the council's grip tightens around a future they cannot foresee.
The council chamber erupts as a furious noble shouts, fearing the kingdom will crumble under a cursed revelation. He wants the angel's warning to stop the looming disaster, yet the queen's spies tighten their grip, ready to silence any dissent.
Lloyd seizes the first clue to the Eye of Summer, racing through the palace corridors as Queen's spies close in, determined to claim the artifact before the feuding houses clash. He feels the crushing weight of his family's freedom slipping away, his heart pounding with the terror of losing both the angel's sigil and the chance to break the forced marriage that would bind his lineage to the crown. The empty pedestal darkens, the angel's warning remains unheard, and a furious noble's scream erupts, leaving the kingdom teetering on the brink of a cursed revelation that could shatter everything.
Suho awakens in Lloyd's rickety manor, the debt-laden banners fluttering like warning flags. He slams his fist on the drafting table, sketches a self-levitating cart powered by steam-run gears, and orders the giant hamster to haul the first prototype. As the contraption sputters to life, townsfolk gasp, Lloyd's laziness is finally turning into a blueprint for salvation.
Suho-in Lloyd slams his fist on the grand oak table, eyes blazing as the estate cards flicker to life. With Han Se-rin sketching a sky-piercing tower, Park Ji-soo haggling over a cursed plot, and the hulking hamster thundering toward the rival's gates. He drafts a magic-reinforced foundation that shatters Kang Min-woo's monopoly in one thunderous strike. The Alder sketches a scenario. Without the eye, the kingdom's army weakens, leaving borders exposed. Lawrence counters, proposing a weapon as strong as the eye, daring to claim they could seize the artifact without harming the realm. Their discussion drifts to the Vantara Mountains, whispered as a possible source of untapped power. The council's hope pivots on a risky expedition, but the fear of losing the kingdom's honor fuels bitter arguments. The cost of chasing a mythical weapon could be the loss of everything they already hold.
We need a weapon, not a promise.
The mountains loom, promising salvation or ruin.
The name Credo echoes across the table, marking the demon's domain. Lloyd eyes the jagged map, seeing the ice-capped cliffs as an impossible barrier. He asks what plan could pierce that wall, his voice tight with urgency. The council whispers about an invasion, a reckless gamble to seize the land before the demons can strike. Their fear of the unknown clashes with the desperate need for resources, but no clear path emerges. Still, the suggestion hangs heavy, promising bloodshed if they dare to charge forward.
What's the plan, then?
The prospect of war now stains the mountain's white face. Lloyd orders the council to lay tracks across the razor-sharp summit, only for a legion of ice-clad demons to burst from the cliffs, tearing the half-built rail and crushing hopeful investors beneath their snarling maws. He watches his grand vision disintegrate as noble lives shatter, his reputation fractures, and the bitter cold of the mountain seeps into his bones, leaving him haunted by the screams of the fallen. The council's desperate pleas echo as the ice beneath them cracks, hinting at an unseen force deeper within the peaks, and the fate of the entire estate hangs on a question no one dares to ask.
He outran death only to discover the demon he chased now owns the city. Suho, now Lloyd, stumbles into a cramped tavern, sweat slick on his brow. He demands a moment, voice shaking, to ask a desperate question about the looming threat. The barkeep eyes him, wary, as a shadow flickers outside, hinting something far worse. Lloyd's plea hangs in the stale air, but the patrons keep their distance, fearing the unknown. He finally forces the barkeep to spill the rumor. A demonic force stalks the streets, hunting anyone who dares to whisper. The tension spikes as the night grows darker.
You cannot hide from us.
The city's heartbeat quickens, and the night whispers danger. "Wake up, Lloyd!" The frantic chorus of servants shouts, brandishing wilted strawberries. Suho jerks upright, the banquet hall spinning into a vaulted courtyard where Lord Caldor's guards loom. He snatches the giant hamster's reins, bolts toward the treasury, and slams a hastily sketched water wheel into place. Magic-infused steel humming, flooding the debtor's ledgers with gold before the high priestess can curse his name. And the answer is already too late.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd Frontera's wine-stained chambers, the weight of his family's mountain debt crushing his bones. He slams his hand on a dusty blueprint, sketches a self-levitating crane powered by alchemical crystals, and commands the hulking hamster to haul timber.
The demon asks if there's a way for its kind to live safely outside the barrier, demanding land to settle and harvest. Lloyd nods, seeing the economic gold in a new frontier, and repeats the demon's own thought before it's spoken. The demon's mind reads his intentions, confirming the bargain feels mutual. With the agreement sealed, both sides sense the conflict easing, the barrier poised to lift. Yet the resolution feels too quick, as if unseen forces already plot to undermine the deal. The price of this sudden peace is the unknown backlash that may erupt once the barrier falls. The calm before the storm leaves everyone wondering who will strike first. Suho Jun hoists the brass lever, igniting the Magi crane as it lifts the ancient Credo demon statue, its cursed fire flaring and shattering the manor's shattered walls. He feels the crushing weight of his family's debt melt into triumph. Yet the demon's desperate plea for land and freedom tears his conscience, risking everything he's built for a fleeting miracle. Lloyd eyes the demon's promised frontier, the barrier trembling, while the statue's fire threatens to engulf the estate, leaving the fate of the empire and the demon's people teetering on a volatile edge.
Suho, now the slothful noble Lloyd, slams his sketches onto the council table, steam curling from the ink as he outlines a floating aqueduct that will flood the mountain debt. The massive hamster thunders beside him, while Sir Calder brandishes his blade, nodding at the blueprint. With the kingdom's magic humming, the first stone lifts, and a new empire begins to rise. Suho slams his schematics onto the dusty council table, the ink still wet, and declares the abandoned hillside will become a bustling market within a moon. His engineered aqueduct bursts to life, flooding the parched fields, while the giant hamster thunders through the streets, scattering skeptical nobles.
Lila whispers that the adult demons forbid contact with humans, calling them scary. Yet she sees kindness in their eyes. Her confession fuels the older boy's resolve to prove those warnings wrong, to build trust where fear reigns. He vows to create a where humans and demons can coexist, even if it means defying centuries of prejudice. The cost? He risks alienating his own people and drawing the ire of powerful foes. Join the Hari squad with a sub before the system crashes. The panels fade to a silent tableau. The boy stands alone, the child's silhouette receding, Lila's eyes glinting with a mix of hope and dread.
Suho eyes the hulking silhouettes marching through the human settlement and demands answers. He wants to know why twisted beasts roam where people should live. The creatures, half orcs, half shadow, block his path, snarling at his intrusion. He forces a strained grin, calling the Dragon King's name to buy time, hoping the beast will pause for a greeting. The leader of the horde snarls, refusing the polite request, while a frantic servant kneels, pleading for the dragon's morning call to be delayed. The servant's desperation buys Suho a narrow window, but the looming battle already stains the cobblestones with fear.
Suho, trapped in Lloyd's body, hurls a massive beam into the charging demon, shattering its chest and exposing a pulsing, rune-etched heart that erupts with blinding light. He feels his family's crushing debt melt away as hope ignites, yet terror claws at his chest, fearing the demon's dying scream could summon an even greater horror. The demon's heart cracks open, releasing a vortex of shadow that swallows the alley, and a distant, echoing chant warns that the true mastermind watches, ready to strike.
Suho, now the slothful noble Lloyd, slams his fist on the ledger and sketches a floating market atop the indebted estate. With Myra's stormlit spells, Sir Roland's sword, and a thunder-charging hamster, the new construction bursts alive, turning rusted barns into bustling trade hubs. The kingdom gasps as the cursed debt evaporates beneath a cascade of glittering arches. Suho, now reborn as the slothful noble Lloyd Frontera, slams his fist on the shattered ledgers and sketches a self-sustaining aqueduct on the spot. With Myra's rune-etched blueprints, Sir Roland's steel-clad brigade, and the giant hamster's thunderous tread, the cursed estate erupts into a thriving metropolis before the sun sets.
You feel the ground tremble as ancient symbols flare around Lloyd's hands. He craves the power to protect his estate once and for all. A hidden altar blocks him, sealed by a dormant demon king's contract that no mortal has ever broken. He reads the inscription, summons the dormant energy, and forces the seal open, causing a burst of crimson light. The power surges through him, and the system flashes, Demon King Inheritance activated. He staggers, realizing the strength he now holds is separate from any magic he's ever known. The cost? A whisper in his mind warns that this power will attract enemies beyond imagination. He has no idea what's waiting.
Lloyd gathers the restless demon workers, his voice cutting through the murmurs of fear. He promises them a year of steady wages if they commit to building the new Frontera County estate. Their ancient distrust of humans blocks the agreement. They doubt any mortal can keep a promise. He flashes the contract he engineered, its clauses reinforced with magical seals that bind both parties. The demons, seeing the unbreakable glyphs, lower their guard and agree to the labor pact. The cost is the first binding oath that ties their souls to his land. What comes next changes everything. A young witch, Mira, steps forward, her eyes flickering with storm clouds, and questions the weather forecasting spell she just cast.
Lloyd shatters the ancient seal, forcing the Demon King's fiery silhouette to rise, as he commands the restless demon workers to weld their power into a new Frontera County estate. He feels his lineage's redemption flicker, trading the guilt of his ancestors' slaves for the promise of wages and hope, while the crowd trembles between awe and fear. The Demon King's smoldering eyes flare, hinting at a darker bargain, as the sky erupts with impossible fire that could either forge the estate or consume everything they cherish. Lloyd, the Demon King, shatters the skyline just as the contract's ink dries, and the world freezes on his grin. He needs a self-sufficient village that can feed thousands for a year while time stands still. The deadline looms, and every missing shelter, every empty pantry threatens total collapse. He slams his fist on the ground, sending a shockwave that sketches the first blueprint in the frozen air. The earth rises, forming rows of huts, fields, and wells in seconds. Workers materialize, bewildered but obedient, and the village sprouts like a living blueprint. Yet the frozen clock ticks louder than ever, and that's not even the worst part. Frustrated, Lloyd repeats the game, demanding faster answers, and the demons grumble about paper being a bias. He tries to invoke the ancient credo, claiming discrimination violates their code. The demons counter with a bizarre logic. A hammer cuts cloth, cloth neutralizes hammer, creating a loop of power. Their cryptic argument stalls any real decision, and the workers watch the leaders argue over symbolism instead of building. Every minute wasted drains morale, and the looming winter threatens starvation. The price of their indecision becomes a chilling reality.
What reason for discriminating against paper?
The next move could either save or doom the settlement. Lloyd shouts, "Rock, paper, scissors," forcing the restless warriors into a deadly hand gesture duel, turning a childish game into a brutal test that decides who claims the coveted weapon and command. The warriors feel their fate teeter on a single flick of a hand, with pride, survival, and the promise of endless labor hanging in the balance as terror ripples through every starving eye. The Demon King watches, his patience fraying, as Lloyd crowns himself ruler and commands the crowd to carve stairs into the mountain, leaving the true power struggle and the workers' fate ominously unresolved. Awakens in Lloyd Frontera's slumped chambers, the stench of stale ale clinging to the air, and instantly sketches a self-leveling scaffolding on the cracked table. He rallies the hulking hamster, commands the ironclad knight to haul stone, and channels raw mana into a rune-etched foundation. Each bolt a promise that the indebted Frontera lineage will rise from ruin. Suho slams the tavern door, sparks flying as his engineered wind turbine whirls above the manor's roof. The giant hamster bolts forward, crushing the debt-binder's ledger while Sir Garrick's sword cleaves the binding contract. Across town, Junwoo hacks Daehan construction servers, rerouting land titles to his hidden vaults.
Suho, now trapped in the slothful noble Lloyd Frontera's body, slams his fist against the vaulted ceiling of the debt-laden manor and sketches a water wheel on the dusty table. With his engineering mind humming, he rigs the village well to harness river flow, powering lanterns for the starving tenants. The giant hamster squeals approval as the first turbines spin, promising a tide-turning revolution.
If you want more daily recaps, hit that subscribe button now. Suho-in Lloyd slams his fist on the marble desk, sketches a self-levitating scaffold, and orders the giant hamster to haul stone blocks up the cliffside. Meanwhile, Junwoo cracks a hidden deed, flips a rival's mortgage, and whispers the plan to Han Se-ryung. Suho-in Lloyd slams his fist onto the marble desk, sketches a self-levitating scaffold, and commands the colossal hamster to haul stone blocks up the cliffside, turning the debt-laden manor into a soaring construction site. He feels the weight of his creditor's wrath lift as the massive hamster gnaws the cursed ledger, but the fragile alliance with Junwoo cracks, threatening his hard-won reputation and freedom. The hidden deed Junwoo uncovers hints at a rival's deadly trap, leaving the cliff's summit trembling with unfinished scaffolding and an ominous rumble that could collapse everything. Junho slams his fist on the council table, unveiling a blueprint that folds a barren hillside into a bustling trade hub. Arya steps forward, sword flashing as she defends his vision against Lord Valter's sabotage. Mira sketches soaring towers while Garrick rallies laborers, and Elder Huan chants ancient land rights. The kingdom watches, breath held, as the first stone of a new era lands.
Suho slams the blueprint onto the cavern wall, his eyes blazing as he calculates the support beams that will hold the freezing dome. The giant hamster squeaks, hauling stone while Sir Darius stands guard, sword at the ready. With a thunderous clang, the first pillar rises, proof that engineering can shatter even time-locked curses.
Suho Kim awakens in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, eyes snapping to the towering mountain of unpaid taxes. He slams a crude blueprint onto the table, sparks of modern engineering flickering across parchment. With the giant hamster's thunderous charge, Sir Darius's blade gleaming, and Myra's arcane schematics, he launches the first self-levitating market stall, shattering the noble house's looming bankruptcy.
Suho as Lloyd slams his fist on the crumbling manor's foundation, sparks flying from his improvised arcforge. He sketches a floating scaffold, whispers calculations to the giant hamster, and orders Garrick's crew to hoist the first stone.
Suho Kim smashes his fist onto the drafting table, igniting a storm of glowing schematics that materialize a massive floating scaffold, poised to topple Valter's monopoly in a single, thunderous strike. Arya's heart erupts with hope as the blueprint promises salvation, yet the weight of unpaid taxes and looming betrayal threatens to tear her love and empire apart in an instant. A shadowy figure watches from the manor's broken rafters, clutching a sealed decree that could nullify the scaffold's power, leaving the fate of the rebellion hanging on a trembling breath. The mountain erupts, snow swallowing soldiers while I raise the forest for my empire. Lloyd eyes the jagged ridge, knowing the enemy's forces crowd the summit. He wants a clear path for his troops, but the slope rises like a wall of ice. He orders the men to flatten the hill, forcing every pickaxe into the frozen stone. The earth shatters, sending a spray of snow into the sky, buying precious seconds before the enemy can regroup. Yet the avalanche roars back, burying half the workers alive.
Javier, that area is too steep. Level it.
The ground gives way and the real battle begins. The demon roars. All you humans ever do is destroy nature. I won't let you damage these mountains. Lloyd, desperate, clutches his broken plans, pleading for progress. He wants the mountain's resources to rebuild his family's fortune. The demon's mana surges, a force that feels like cottonwood striking his skin. Lloyd flinches. Yes, your mana is strong, but that's all there is to it. The demon pauses, confused. Oh, wait a sec. Not that. Lloyd watches the mountain tremble, his inventions rendered useless. The cost. The very land he tried to tame now rebels, threatening his life. Lloyd shatters the demon's razor blade-wielding head, sending a shockwave that crashes through the half-built tower and erupts the frozen cliff into a roaring avalanche of shattered stone and ice. He watches his lifelong estate crumble, feeling his engineered future dissolve while the bitter wind steals his breath, leaving him torn between desperate survival and the shattered promise of his masterpiece. A looming silhouette of Javier hangs from a frayed rope. The blizzard howls louder, and the demon's echoing threat hangs in the air, leaving Lloyd's fate and the mountain's salvation hanging on a razor-thin thread. Shouts across the ruined skyline, a warning that the city's future teeters on the edge. Lloyd Junwoo, now the so-called greatest estate developer, stares at the crumbling blueprint of his inherited debt. He wonders if he can ever rise to the rank of Grandmaster, the only path out of ruin. The weight of his family's name presses down, but his mind races with modern engineering tricks. He clenches his fists, ready to lay the first stone of a new empire. The first gamble is about to begin. Ugh! He snarls as the first attack slams into him, the enemy's blows draining the strange alloy man beside him.
The crew's frustration spikes as construction drags. A teammate suggests bargaining with the spirit to speed things up. Lloyd slams his fist on the table, refusing to gamble his life on a cursed pact. He warns that risking death now will haunt him forever, yet his eyes flick to the distant and he dreams of opening once the project finishes. The vision of tourists flooding the new landmark fuels his resolve, but the unspoken cost, his own safety and the spirit's lingering anguish, hangs heavy. A rival developer sneers, accusing Lloyd of siphoning money to line his own pockets, while Lloyd retorts that the new trade hub will flood the kingdom with wealth and tourism. Lloyd ignites the ancient train, its roaring steam thrusting the colossal carriage through the mountain, shattering debt-bound chains and launching the revolutionary rail hub toward the kingdom's horizon. Suho watches the massive locomotive surge, feeling his heart pound as the Frontera estate teeters between newfound prosperity and the crushing weight of a lingering, unseen curse that could erase everything he's built. The ground trembles beneath the tracks, and a shadowed spirit flickers in the mist, promising a perilous bargain that threatens to consume the entire development if Lloyd dares to accept.
Suho snaps awake in the crumbling manor, his mind buzzing with structural formulas. He slams his palm on the ancient drafting table, sketching a self-levitating scaffolding that will hoist the debt-laden estate into the sky. The giant hamster squeals approval, the knight brandishes his sword, and the first stone of a new, debt-free dynasty rises under Suho's engineered spell.
Suho and Lloyd slams the ceremonial stage, brandishing a copper-cogged contraption that siphons the eye of SLM Mayor's power into a towering crystal lattice. The crowd gasps as magenta-lit markets surge, erasing his family's debt in a single pulse. Behind him, Han Se-yun calibrates the spell runic schematics while the giant hamster thunders forward, sealing the city's newfound wealth. The surge overwhelms Lloyd's body. His veins glow with raw magic. He feels the eye drinking his power, then spilling it back, a feedback loop of pure energy. Absorb it, Lloyd. I'll pour all of my mana into him right now, he cries, his voice cracking with effort. Sir Aldrich thrusts his lance, directing the flow, while the hamster's paws pound the floor, amplifying the charge. The altar cracks, releasing a torrent of light that engulfs the hall. Lloyd's engineering mind registers the rapid charging pattern, and he uses it to lock the mana into a stable lattice, preventing a catastrophic explosion. The eye stabilizes, bathing everyone in a warm glow. Lloyd channels a torrent of raw mana into the eye, the fused relic igniting in a blinding magenta burst that reshapes the kingdom's power core. He feels the kingdom's heartbeat surge through him, gaining unrivaled magical dominance while the lingering crystal decay threatens to swallow his newfound authority and the lives of those he protects. The eye flickers ominously, hinting at a hidden flaw that could collapse the entire mana network, leaving the realm teetering on the brink of catastrophic ruin.
The heir's bouquet detonates, sparking a city-wide vendetta against the developer. Suho Lloyd watches the blue flower bomb explode, dust choking the market square. Merchants scramble, shouting curses, while the noble's guards rush to contain the chaos. He knows the blast will bankrupt his family if he doesn't act fast. He darts toward the wreckage, grabs the shattered petals, and begins sketching a quick reinforcement plan in the dirt. The crowd's panic fuels his resolve, but the noble council watches, ready to strip him of whatever land he still owns. He plants a crude barrier just as the first fire spout erupts, buying precious seconds. And that's only the opening spark.
Soho sketches a floodgate on the tavern wall, ink dripping as he explains the water wheel to a skeptical baron. The baron's guards lean in, eyes widening when the blueprint shows a self-clearing drainage system. Soho slams his fist on the table, declares, "We'll turn the river into revenue," and the baron nods, already ordering timber for the first prototype.
Suho awakens in Lloyd's rickety manor, the debt ledger flashing like a war drum. He slams his fist on the table, sketches a self-leveling crane, and commands the hulking hamster to haul stone while the knight brandishes a glowing hammer. With arcane runes humming, the first tower sprouts, sending Lord Guan's emissaries scrambling for new ground. Suho bursts into Lloyd's crumbling manor, slams a blueprint, and unleashes a self-levitating crane powered by the hulking hamster, hoisting massive stone blocks as the debt-laden banners howl. He feels the weight of his family's ruin lift momentarily, tasting triumph while the looming debt threatens to snap his fragile hope, and the manor's trembling walls whisper that collapse looms. The crane trembles under the strain, the hamster's roar fades, and the unseen debt collector's shadows gather beyond the ruined courtyard, leaving Suho's gamble hanging on a single precarious gear. Sees the Demon King's children, knowing no mercy can survive. The merciless warriors gather in the shadows, eyes fixed on the flickering firelight. Their leader snarls, demanding a night ambush to prove loyalty. The only obstacle is the innocent laughter drifting from the nearby village. He orders his men to march, each step crushing the fragile peace. The children's screams echo as the first torch falls, sealing their fate. The darkness swallows hope, and the Demon King's wrath begins to stir.
Your greed seals your doom.
Suho Lloyd slams his fist on the crumbling manor desk, eyes blazing as he sketches a floating foundation with chalk.
Suho, now masquerading as the indolent noble Lloyd Frontera, slams open the dusty ledger of his family's debts and sketches a floating bridge that will ferry wheat across the canyon in a single sunrise. Sir Gideon Falco arches an impressed grin, while the giant hamster thunders ahead, hauling stone for the first market pavilion. With a flourish of magical sigils, Suho seals a trade pact that turns the mountain's curse into a thriving port, and the night's feast erupts in cheers. No longer a dinner of despair, but the first celebration of a new empire. Suho, disguised as Lloyd, commands the fur-clad hamster to hoist a massive stone slab while sealing a glowing sigil, conjuring a trembling, self-leveling foundation that rises against the cursed mountain. Myra's desperate bargain with the royal tax collector hangs on the unfinished bridge, threatening the workers' lives and the kingdom's coffers, while Lord Valen Blackthorn's mercenaries edge closer to crushing the starving laborers. The sigil flickers ominously, the council wavers over Elder Juan's limitless capital pact, and the mountain's restless spirits stir,
leaving the bridge's collapse and the Empire's survival teetering on a razor's edge.
Suho slams the parchment, eyes blazing as he rewrites the cursed debt contract into a blueprint for a towering aqueduct. He commands Sir Gareth to marshal stone, while the giant hamster gnaws through the old foundation, clearing for Junwoo's first gleaming estate. Yoon Hae-ri sketches the schematics, and even Lord Armand watches, jaw clenched, as the noble's fortunes begin to rise.
Suho's eyes snap open to the clamor of a tavern. He's Lloyd Frontera, draped in silks that can't pay the rent. Ignoring the ale, he sketches a stone-piercing aqueduct on a napkin, then orders the giant hamster to haul the blueprints to the Lord's manor. The boys gather around the trembling borrower, their eyes sharp. They want to make the debt lesson stick, to scare him into payment. The village's starving families loom as invisible pressure, each empty bowl a reminder of failure. The eldest steps forward, voice low, and lays out the brutal penalties. Interest spikes, property seizure, even exile. The borrower swallows, his hands shaking, knowing refusal means ruin for everyone. He nods, the weight of the village settling on his shoulders like a stone. And that fear fuels the next gamble. And that's not even the worst part.
The guild chief unveils a dazzling, half-built manor in the village square, forcing the trembling borrower and his starving neighbors to confront a miracle that could either rescue them or bind them to impossible debt. The borrower clings to a fragile hope of redemption as his desperate plea for more money hangs over the crowd, while the villagers stare at empty bowls, fearing that a single misstep will shatter their last chance at peace. A cloaked figure steps into the clearing, promising celestial rewards for deeds worth 100 million, leaving the council's trust hanging on a razor's edge as the system flickers toward an unknown crash.
Suho as Lloyd slams his fist on the crumbling ledger, sparks of modern engineering igniting his eyes. He sketches a self-leveling scaffold on the tavern wall, while the giant hamster gnaws through the stone-bound debt shackles. Sir Gareth draws his sword, Princess Arya steps forward, and together they watch the first stone of a sky-piercing tower rise.
Suho, now Lloyd Frontera, slams his hand on a cracked ledger, eyes blazing. He sketches a self-levitating scaffolding, orders the giant hamster to haul stone, and commands Sir Gareth to secure the site. With Myra's blueprints and ancient runes humming, the first stone of a debt-crushing tower rises, defying every curse.
Lloyd whispers the incantation, disregarding the need to pronounce the name correctly. The shout alone fuels his resolve. He feels the winter heart and eye of summer clash inside his chest, a fusion that sends a surge through his veins. The power spikes, and an unseen field expands, granting the fifth, the one who has walked every corner of Frontera County, the ability to see any target in real time, regardless of distance. He tests it on a distant bridge, the Queen's Envoy, and the field flickers, confirming the new function works flawlessly. The cost. His own stamina wanes, and the magical feedback leaves a lingering ache that threatens to cripple his next move.
Lloyd shatters the Hellgate's blaze with a copper coil, thrusting the humming TV1 hug into its core, and the ruined ridge erupts in blinding, crackling light. He bears the weight of every broken promise, feeling the noble's silent guilt and his own winter-summer heart clash as his newly awakened ally flickers to life, threatening total collapse or salvation. The fifth ally's monitoring matrix spikes, the bridge foundations tremble, and the hidden ritual flickers on the edge of his mind, leaving the fate script unwritten and the mountain's debt looming.
Suho slams his fist on the cracked stone desk, eyes blazing as his mind fuses modern engineering with ancient runes. He sketches a levitation bridge, channels the hamster's thunderous charge, and commands the knight to anchor the spell. The crumbling manor shudders, pillars of crystal rise, and the mountain of debt erupts into glittering gold, proof that a civil engineer can rewrite fate. Suho slams his fist on the cracked marble desk, eyes blazing as he sketches a floating crane that harnesses the hamster's vortex breath. The knight, Sir Halden, grips his sword tighter, trusting the engineer's wild blueprint. Suho, now the slothful noble Lloyd Frontera, slams his hand onto the drafting table, eyes blazing as he sketches a self-levitating bridge that will ferry his mountain-deep debts into the sky. Beside him, the giant hamster thunders forward, crushing the creditor's ledger, while Sir Garrick, the stoic knight, brandishes a rune-etched hammer that seals the new foundation of the Frontera estate.
Manhwa with Hari. The battlefield quiets as the surviving soldiers tally the casualties. One commander grips a torn ledger, eyes widening as the count drops by a single digit. One life spared by the sudden collapse of the monster horde. The crush of bodies eases, but the ground still trembles beneath their boots.
The battlefield freezes as the shattered shield releases a vortex of shadow, swallowing nearby soldiers and dragging the giant hamster's squeals into oblivion. Lloyd's mind races. He must seal the rift before the entire county is erased. The vortex itself spins faster than any wind he's calculated, its edge-tearing reality. Suho pulls the emergency rune from his pocket, slams it into the ground, and watches the rune flare, anchoring a temporary barrier. The barrier holds for a heartbeat, buying his allies time. Yet the price is steep. The rune burns his hand, searing flesh and draining his stamina. The county's fate now hangs on a single, trembling line of light. The darkness presses, asking if one man can still hold the line.
Lloyd, now Suho, confronts the towering king of hell as a shattered shield erupts, unleashing a vortex that tears the battlefield apart and threatens to swallow the remaining forces. He feels his resolve crumble, realizing every breath costs a lost comrade and the chance to save the fragile peace he fought for, while the abyssal roar devours hope. The vortex expands, pulling the king of hell toward the abyss, and a single, unclosed rift flickers behind him, leaving the army teetering on the brink of annihilation.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's dim manor, the scent of stale ale clinging to his nose. He slams open a cracked ledger, sees the mountain of debt crushing the Fronteras, and smirks, grabbing a battered drafting set. He sketches a self-lifting bridge powered by runic gears, while the giant hamster gnaws at the foundation, ready to rewrite the noble's fate.
Suho awakens in Lloyd's drunken body, eyes blazing as he sketches a floating crane on the tavern table. The giant hamster thunders beside him, while Sir Garrick brandishes a newly forged magi lever that lifts debt-laden stone. Across Seoul, Jae-hyuk slams a contract onto a rival's desk, his geo-energy sigil pulsing, and Seori nods. Today's blueprint will reshuffle the entire market. Suho's eyes snap open to the clamor of a drunken banquet, his mind racing as he realizes he's trapped in Lloyd Frontera's rotund body. He grabs a half-empty goblet, sketches a self-levitating crane on the tablecloth, and shouts, "We'll sell this estate before the creditors arrive." The giant hamster thunders forward, ready to haul the first stone. The clash intensifies, and the next strike could rewrite destiny.
Suho feels the weight of every missed drill as the memory of his engineering class flashes. He knows a single slip could cost his life, so he forces his muscles to recall every calculation. The poison he brewed earlier still burns his veins, but the new formula spikes its potency. Suho slams the torn schematics onto the dusty table, bolts a steam-powered pulley, and ignites the self-levitating crane, sending a massive hamster wheel-sized platform spiraling toward the collapsing ceiling. He feels his heart pound as the manor's crushing debt threatens to swallow him whole, knowing one miscalculation could shatter his last chance at freedom and cost his very life. The crane hums to life, a blinding surge of power crackling, while a lingering cursed aura flickers, hinting that an unseen cataclysm looms, ready to tear the fragile salvation apart.
Suho slams his fist onto the warped drafting table, sparks flying as he rigs a steam-powered crane to hoist the Frontera debts onto a floating platform. The massive hamster thunders beside him, its fur bristling with mana, while Sir Baek Songho brandishes his sword, clearing the rival guild saboteurs. With a grin, Suho sketches the first stone of a skybridge that will rewrite his family's fate. Suho snaps awake in Lloyd's cracked manor, the scent of stale ale mingling with the weight of unpaid taxes. He thrusts a schematics-filled notebook into the giant hamster's paws, commanding the beast to haul stone while Mina sketches a levitating market hall. Suho slams his palm on the crumbling ledger, eyes blazing as he drafts a floating bridge that channels river trade straight into the Frontera vaults. The giant hamster thunders beside him, hauling stone while Sir Baek Songho rallies the village workers. With Mina's inked schematics glowing, the lazy noble's debts shatter like glass, and the kingdom's skyline erupts into a bold new horizon. Suho Lloyd slams the tavern door, rolls out a blueprint for a self-levitating grain silo, and shouts, "If we can store food above the clouds, the debt will drown." The giant hamster thunders forward, burrowing a tunnel for the foundation. Sir Baek Songho rallies the village workers, while Mina sketches reinforced arches.
The queen's crown erupts in blinding flame, unveiling a lurking ancient evil god behind the throne, as the deity roars its claim to the kingdom's mana. Suho feels the queen's terror crack the marble hall, realizing the kingdom's lifeblood teeters on the edge of annihilation, while his desperate inventions crumble under the looming curse. The unleashed mana surges unchecked, the ancient god's shadow spreads across the capital, and no seal remains to stop the impending cataclysm.
Suho Lloyd slams his fist on the cracked desk, eyes blazing as he sketches a water wheel that could power an entire valley. He shouts, "We'll sell the mountain to the guild and fund the dam." The giant hamster thunders forward, Sir Rowan brandishes his blade, and Lady Arya nods, already drafting trade accords. Debt trembles. The estate's rebirth erupts.
Suho, now lounging in Lloyd Frontera's wine-stained chambers, slams his hand on a crumbling ledger and sketches a floating aqueduct with a charcoal stick. The giant hamster squeals, the knight brandishes his blade, and magical runes flare to seal the design.
Lloyd rises, clutching his own bleeding wrist, and faces the royal emissary who demands a timeline. He wants a month to rebuild the manor, to prove his engineering methods work and to secure the family's claim. The emissary doubts the feasibility, citing scarce resources and lingering curses that could sabotage any construction. Lloyd pulls out a detailed blueprint, pointing to reinforced foundations and magical conduits that will accelerate growth. He promises a full recovery of the estate within 30 days, betting his reputation on the plan. The cost. His pride is now on the line, and any failure will seal the Frontera line forever.
Lloyd Frontera. Yes, Your Majesty.
The queen slams the royal seal, declaring Lloyd Frontera her husband, binding his fate to the throne in a single, explosive decree. Lloyd gains royal power and land, but forfeits the month he promised to rebuild his family's shattered estate, trading hope for a gilded cage. Now the kingdom trembles, fearing his magic-infused manor will collapse, while the queen's bed hides a deadly clause that could strip Lloyd of everything.
Suho slams his palm onto the blueprint, the ink glowing as his engineering mind rewrites the crumbling Frontera estate. He rigs a crystal-powered elevator, the giant hamster thunders beneath, and Sir Gavrin brandishes his lance, sealing the foundation. Across town, Junwoo shouts orders, Han Se-ryung sketches soaring towers while Minho seals a loan that erases the Fronteras mountain of debt in a single strike. Suho Junwoo slams his fist on the cracked marble desk, sparks crackling from the improvised turbine he just rigged. The giant hamster roars, scattering dust as the newly forged stone pillars rise, sealing the debt-laden manor's crumbling walls. Suho and Lloyd slams his fist on the tavern table, shattering the mug beside him. If the Frontera coffers sink, we all drown, he roars, eyes blazing with blueprints. He sketches a self-levitating scaffolding on a scrap of parchment, the giant hamster squeaking approval, while the knight readies his enchanted hammer for the first groundbreaking strike.
Suho Lloyd slams his fist onto the dusty ledger, eyes blazing as the giant hamster gnaws through the mountain of debt. He sketches a floating bridge. The knight brandishes a crystal compass. An arcane runes pulse beneath the ink. With a thunderous shout, the invention erupts, crushing Choi Daesun's schematics and carving the first stone of his family's salvation.
Suho Lloyd slams his fist onto the dusty ledger, conjuring a floating bridge blueprint while a giant hamster gnaws the mountain of debt, forcing the king to confront the looming fiscal collapse. Lloyd teeters between triumph and ruin, feeling the weight of the crown crush his skull as he risks his estate's survival to fund the kingdom's defense. While the monarch's stubbornness threatens to drown the realm in endless paperwork, the royal advisor whispers a daring betrayal plan, leaving Lloyd with a torn map and a kingdom on the brink. As the council's gold refusal looms, and the fate of the Frontera coffers hangs in precarious balance. Suho snaps awake in Lloyd Frontera's wine-splattered chambers, heart pounding as debt collectors thunder at the door. He sketches a self-levitating scaffolding with a flick of his chalk, the giant hamster squeaking approval. Sir Cedric slams his shield into the doorway, while Mira chants a binding rune. Together they seal the contracts that will turn the ruined estate into the kingdom's first floating market. Suho, now inhabiting the slothful noble Lloyd Frontera, slams his hand on a battered ledger, then sketches a self-levitating scaffolding that lifts the family's mortgaged manor onto a cliffside market. The giant hamster clatters beside him, while Sir Cedric brandishes his sword to clear the path.
A hulking hamster named Bramble snorts, scattering glittering dust over the cracked courtyard as Sir Garrick steadies his lance. Lloyd Frontera watches, eyes sharp, and sketches a vaulted aqueduct on a parchment torn from a farmer's satchel. He mutters calculations, transforms the dust into a levitating scaffold, and orders the knight to position the first stone. The crowd gasps as the structure rises, defying centuries-old debt-bound curses, and hope flickers in the nobles' weary hearts.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd Frontera's rickety chambers, the stench of stale ale still clinging to his skin.
Lloyd Frontera seizes the waning truth jewel, channeling its flickering light into a self-levitating scaffold that pierces the demonic breach beneath the kingdom. Mira watches helplessly as her brother's promise crumbles, while Lloyd feels the crushing weight of a kingdom's salvation hanging on a fragile, trembling construct. The jewel's light sputters, darkness claws nearer, and an unseen enemy prepares to shatter the scaffold, leaving the realm's fate balanced on a single, trembling pulse.
Mansion burned, the mines flooded, and Sir Byron vanished with the ice. Panic spreads as the Demon King shouts that a crack tears through the Lloyd-Habbey Bridge. Lloyd's crew scrambles, sealing the crossing and ordering every cart to halt. Engineers race to brace the shattered stone, while the kingdom's trade stalls on the broken span. The bridge's loss cuts supply lines, starving the nearby villages. Time ticks, and the kingdom watches the gap widen.
Julian, stay by Lady Sarah. More demons at the mansion.
You hear the clank of hammers and the groan of collapsing tunnels as workers disappear into the dark mines. Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's raucous body, slams a crude blueprint onto the tavern table, and commands the giant hamster to haul limestone for a new aqueduct. Mira arcs a shimmering ward, sealing the foundation while Sir Arlen brandishes his blade against debt collectors. Within hours, the crumbling estate sprouts stone pillars, startling Lord Garin and forcing High Priestess Celine to reconsider. Manwa with Hari or you'll miss the climax. The knight's horn signals a reckoning just beyond the horizon. Lloyd stares at the looming rift, knowing every force unleashed together would raise the kingdom. He wants a single solution that spares the realm from a cataclysmic war.
Lloyd kneels on the fractured bridge, chanting the hidden counterspell as the ancient script ignites, forcing the looming rift to pulse and the demon legion to surge toward the city walls. His confession shatters the fragile trust, leaving him isolated as comrades recoil, his chance for redemption slipping while the kingdom teeters on collapse. The glowing formula flickers, the rift widens, and the demon king's shadow looms, leaving the fate of the realm hanging on a single, untested incantation. The simulation shatters, and his mana-fueled fix threatens to strip the city of its soul. Lloyd Jaehyun slams his hands on the glowing diagram, eyes blazing with panic. He needs a way to bind the broken material before the kingdom's engineers deem it lost forever. The ancient compression rune flickers uselessly, refusing to hold the fractured stone. He tears the page, sketches a new lattice, and pours raw mana into the void, hoping the flow will seal the crack. The stone trembles, a faint seal forming, but the cost is a surge of uncontrolled energy that rattles the entire workshop. The first ripple already warns that nothing will stay calm.
Lloyd Jaehyun lays out the plan. They must synchronize the jewel's energy with a newly designed conduit, a bridge between worlds. Javier, still reeling from his newfound role, asks, "If I'm the original, why does this matter now?" Lloyd Jaehyun answers, "Because the moment you hear this, you'll try to fix everything yourself, and that will only speed the disaster." Javier's shoulders slump, realizing his pride could doom them all. He reluctantly trusts the conduit, allowing Lloyd Jaehyun to install the device while the giant hamster scouts the perimeter. The first surge of magic surges through the metal, stabilizing the jewel for a heartbeat.
Lloyd Jaehyun fuses the ancient jewel into the newly forged conduit, forcing the cursed restoration to freeze at the brink of collapse, while the village teeters on a razor-thin edge of salvation. Javier feels crushed as Mira publicly denounces Lloyd Jaehyun, stripping his credibility while the shattered stone fragments jeopardize the guild's waterworks, threatening the entire estate's lifeblood and his own redemption. The clan elders' roar echoes as the cursed relic pulses, ready to rend the village apart, leaving Lloyd Jaehyun staring at a decision that could shatter everything. Suho Kim snaps awake in Lloyd Frontera's crumbling manor, a goblet of cheap wine sloshing as a massive hamster thunders past, scattering dust-caked ledgers. He elbows the snoozing knight, slams a hand-drawn blueprint onto the table, and shouts, "We'll turn these ruins into a trade hub before sunset." The hamster snorts, the knight draws his sword, and the estate's fate pivots on Suho's reckless genius.
Suho bursts from his slumber, eyes snapping open to a banquet hall where Lloyd Frontera's rotund belly swells over ale. He snatches a schematic scroll, sketches a self-levitating derrick, and orders the giant hamster, Mogul, to haul stone for a new aqueduct.
A battered guard rushes forward, pleading for the knight's safety, his voice trembling. He wants to stop the bloodshed to keep his comrades alive. The knight, still reeling, sees the guard's panic as a threat, interpreting it as betrayal. He swings his sword, slashing at the guard's throat, the steel singing with rage. The guard collapses, eyes wide, the battlefield silencing for a heartbeat before chaos erupts again. The knight's fury blinds him, and his allies begin to fear the very man they once trusted.
SH, shut it. You're the enemy of my senior, Giles.
The new Hell Knight slams the cursed contract on the table, demanding proof of his binding, as the terrified guard lunges forward and the battlefield erupts in chaotic bloodshed. The knight wrestles with crushing guilt, feeling every fallen comrade's shattered hope press into his soul, while his desperate plea for redemption threatens to shatter the fragile humanity he clings to. A looming, unseen threat hovers as the contract glows ominously, promising a darker pact, leaving the knight and his allies teetering on the edge of an abyss they cannot yet see.
You hear the drums of the underworld pounding. Every second ticks toward ruin. Lloyd Frontera stares at the glittering contract promising 10 million gold a month for 4 days of work and 2 patrols. He reads the fine print, heart pounding, wondering if the good communication clause hides a trap. Fear claws at his throat. The promise of wealth tempts him, but the line about staying silent if the clause is broken feels like a death sentence. He signs, hoping the ink will seal safety, not a demon's bargain. The ink dries, and the air grows colder.
Violating, Lloyd will go silent.
And the ink whispers a warning no one hears.
You feel the weight of centuries pressing on your shoulders as the demon steps forward, recalling a letter you answered 300 years ago. He apologizes for past troubles, then admits his new demonic nature forces him to swear profusely, calling you damned hellspawn. The demon's harsh words sting, yet he explains they stem from their opposite roles, him, a ruler of torment, you, a desperate mortal. He offers a tentative truce, hoping mutual understanding can keep the abyss at bay. The cost of this uneasy peace is the demon's pride, now chipped away by forced humility.
I called you damned hellspawn. Forgive my position.
Their fragile accord hangs on a single, trembling breath. Lloyd commands the Truth Jewel's restoration while confronting the King of Hell, demanding the crumbling contract be broken, igniting a battle of wills that could shatter the nightmare itself. Lloyd feels centuries of weight, risking his soul, while allies glimpse hope as the demon shows unexpected kindness. But the king's cold stare warns that any misstep could cost the land its very existence. The sand-covered angel collapses. The King of Hell whispers Lloyd's ingenuity threatens his throne, and a hidden force stalks the horizon, leaving the manor's fate and the infernal war hanging on a razor-thin thread.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's raucous tavern, the family's debts clawing at his throat. He sketches a self-leveling scaffolding with charcoal, then commands the giant hamster to haul stone while Sir Baek-Jun watches skeptically. With a flash of rune-lit magic, the first of his debt-crushing towers rises, daring Lord Kwan's envy. Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's drunken body, feels the weight of a mountain-high debt crushing his noble lineage. He slams his fist on a cracked table, sketches a self-leveling scaffold, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone blocks while Sir Baek-Jun stands guard. With each clank of magic-infused steel, the family's coffers swell and destiny rewrites itself.
Lloyd flips through his notebook, eyes flicking to a scribbled question. What's the most fragile window in the world? He laughs, shouting that a burst of angel tears could shatter it, then pauses, realizing the tears could also fuel a massive crystal reservoir. He recalls the reset pattern he's tracked, deploying standby crews to the exact spots fate rewinds. The plan hinges on merit points whispered by Raphael, yet Lloyd scoffs, seeing his current cleanup as unworthy of reward. He decides to summon the Truth Jewel, hoping it will reveal how to halt Hell's bleed into their realm or give him a weapon to strike back. The jewel glows, casting a pale map of hidden rifts across the floor.
Lloyd smashes the steel plate, forcing the angel tier formula to ignite, revealing a glowing kanji that rewrites his entire plan. He feels his fragile hope evaporate as the radish weeps, while the looming moon threatens to crush his dwindling chance to seal the evil god's shards. The shattered mirror flashes infinite futures, leaving Lloyd staring at the enigmatic kanji, unsure whether the angel tears can ever fill the void before darkness collapses everything. Lloyd Frontera's petition summons a heavenly army, and Gabriel's wind-cracked tower shatters in a thunderous roar. Lloyd, barely awake from his dream, clutches the parchment that could doom his family's estate. He wants the petition to buy time, to force the heavens to intervene before the debts drown them. The gale tearing through the courtyard threatens to rip the scroll away. He lunges, fingers scrabbling over the parchment, slamming it into the stone altar before the wind can snatch it. The altar trembles, the sky bruises, and the heavens blink once, as if weighing his desperate gamble. Gabriel storms into the courtyard, eyes wild, shouting that the wind is unbearable.
Lloyd grabs the nearest stone, pressing it against the kitten's expanding form, hoping the cold weight will halt the bizarre growth. He feels the heat of the magic searing his palm, the stone trembling under the strain. The creature's eyes lock onto his, a silent plea flickering in the glow. He whispers a hurried incantation, channeling his engineering mind into a makeshift stabilizer. The kitten shrinks back, exhausted, and the altar's glow dims, leaving Lloyd drenched in sweat and doubt. He knows this fleeting solution buys him nothing more than a pause. The altar's cracks seal as the last of the magical surge fades, the stone humming a low, satisfied note.
Lloyd slams a cold stone into the kitten-sized magical surge, sealing the altar's crack as the demon's gaze freezes for a 5-second blind spot, his inventions humming against hell's wrath. He feels his soul teeter on pre-written damnation, yet clutches a fragile hope that breaking the script grants freedom for himself and the world, risking everything he's built. The twisted fate engine thrums, its gears clawing at his mind, while the king of hell's unblinking stare promises an imminent strike, leaving Lloyd's salvation hanging on that dying heartbeat.
Suho's eyes snap open to a chandelier of dust motes, the clinking of his own empty mug echoing in the manor's grand hall. He slams his fist on the table, sketching a steam-powered pulley on a napkin, an invention that could slash the Frontera debt overnight. Outside, the giant hamster thunders toward the hills, while Sir Garrick readies his sword, ready to test Suho's daring blueprint. Suho slams his palm onto the cracked manor floor, sparks flying from his improvised Magi engine. The giant hamster squeals, hoisting a collapsed stone slab as Suho rigs a counterweight, while Sir Garrick brandishes his blade, clearing a path for the new market square.
The newly stable platform glints in the dusk, drawing the eyes of the kingdom's elite. Lloyd aims to showcase his invention to Lord Velder, hoping to secure a land grant. Yet Velder's guards circle, distrust etched on their faces. Lloyd steps forward, his shoulders squared, and presents the blueprint, while the hamster squeals a triumphant chirp. Velder's eyes narrow, and he signals a halt, demanding proof of profit. Lloyd whispers a quick calculation, projecting future taxes, and the guards lower their weapons, impressed. The concession wins him the grant, but the hidden cost is a secret clause binding his family to Velder's service.
Done.
Lloyd shatters the truth jewel, unleashing chaotic energy while clutching the broken shard, forcing the ancient entity to pause the fate restoration. Lloyd risks losing the month-long reprieve and his chance to secure the land grant, while the kingdom teeters on collapse, his pride burning hotter than the dying crystal. The rival merchants' forces converge on the workshop as the broken shard pulses ominously, promising a deadly showdown before the alloy can be forged.
The king of hell will flood our estate, erasing everything we've built. Suho as Lloyd hears the warning echo across the cliffside and feels his stomach drop. He knows the invading army will drown every tower, every plan, every hope. The only way out is to turn the lake into a weapon, but that means sacrificing the very ground his family depends on. He clenches his fists, eyes blazing with the resolve of an engineer who refuses to watch his calculations wash away. He orders the demolition of the lake's western dam, even as the thunder of hooves grows louder.
Are you scared? I am.
The water begins to rise, and the real battle starts now.
Suho Kim awakens in Lloyd Frontera's body, curses the mountain of debt, then slams his engineering textbook onto the banquet table. He sketches a self-levitating scaffolding, commands the giant hamster to haul stone, and orders the knight to secure the site, all before the king of hell's army arrives. The newly forged estate gleams, promising a safe haven and a ruthless comeback. The envoy hesitates, his mind racing as he recalls how quickly he agreed to the dragon's terms. Far too quickly for any seasoned negotiator. He now faces the absurd request. A mortal must enter the great dragon's lair, and in return, he earns a date with a female dragon, a prize that feels both ridiculous and terrifying.
Lloyd's eyes dart to the assembled militia, their faces pale but determined. He wants every soldier to charge the infernal army, to buy time for the refugees. The enemy's fireballs scorch the courtyard, and the Count's trembling voice spreads doubt among the ranks. Lloyd raises his sword, points toward the blackened horizon, and barks orders that cut through the panic. The fighters surge forward, forming a shaky line that holds back the first wave of hellspawn. Yet the king's elite guard breaks through, scattering the militia and leaving a gaping hole in their defense. The estate loses a crucial supply depot, and the surviving troops retreat in disarray.
If you wish to protect our leader, fight with me.
Lloyd shatters the Dragon King's grin by slamming his fists on the table, commanding the militia to charge as holy fire rains down, while the sky erupts with infernal banners. He feels the villagers' terror collapse into desperate hope, risking his own resolve to protect every home, even as the flood of holy water threatens to crush the estate's walls and his leadership. A lone knight steps forward, eyes locked on Lloyd's trembling silhouette, promising a new weapon, while the enemy's fireballs scorch the courtyard and the fate of the refugees hangs on a single, unanswered strike. Head Knight is appointed as the estate's last line of defense, death looming. Lloyd, now a lazy noble forced to act, watches his people scramble through smoke-filled streets. He wants the evacuation finished before the enemy breaches the walls. The half-finished gates and exhausted workers block his plan. He shouts orders, forces men to lift broken planks, and rallies the remaining guards to hold the breach. The evacuation clears, but the estate's heart stays exposed, and every shouted command drains his dwindling stamina. Lloyd demands the last batch of villagers out, fearing the approaching army. He wants the count complete before nightfall. The stubborn Sir Byron drags his feet, still polishing his sword instead of loading carts. A frantic scholar points to a lone drop of blood left on the ground, claiming it marks the summoner's presence. He wants to stop the ritual that will call the King of Hell, but the method requires fear harvested from animals, an idea that sounds insane. He recalls Jael Zim's explanation. During the solar eclipse, collective fear becomes the key to opening the portal. The scholar scrambles to disperse the gathered beasts, but the eclipse looms, and the cost is the loss of every creature's life to prevent a greater doom. And the answer is already too late.
It's him!
The eclipse draws nearer, tightening the noose. You feel the ground tremble beneath your boots as the enemy banners flap in the distance. Lloyd rallies his exhausted troops, desperate to hold the valley while the abyssal beast awakens beyond the ridge. Fear claws at every soldier, their morale shattered by rumors of Hell's armies. Ignoring the dread, Lloyd raises his voice, shouting that no puppet strings will make them cower, and orders the front line to form a wall of shields. The men snap to attention, their shoulders stiffening despite fatigue. The sacrifice? Several veterans collapse, their bodies giving way to the relentless onslaught. Lloyd slams the council table, unfurling a glowing aqueduct blueprint that promises to flood the mountain depths with water-powered power, while the colossal hamster drags the prototype into the arena. Arya feels her heart race as the ledger screams insolvency, realizing Lloyd's plan could rescue his family from ruin or condemn them to endless servitude under the Demon King's shadow. The head knight demands a concrete strategy, and the abyssal beast awakens beyond the ridge, leaving the valley's fate hanging on whether Lloyd can turn terror into an unstoppable reputation.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, the mountain of debt looming like a dark cloud. He sketches a self-leveling stone bridge, then commands the giant hamster to haul limestone across the river. With Sir Darius' blade flashing and Princess Arya's seal endorsing his plan, the first thriving township rises from the cursed fief. Suho, now Lloyd Frontera, slams his hand on the cracked ledger and sketches a water wheel that powers a grain mill, instantly cutting the estate's tax burden. Mira rushes to draft blueprints while Sir Darius stations troops to guard the construction site.
Suho, now inhabiting the reckless noble Lloyd, slams his hand on a dusty ledger and sketches a gravity-defying aqueduct beside the crumbling manor. The giant hamster squeals approval as Sir Darius rallies workers, while Princess Arya signs a trade pact that floods the region with capital. With each stone laid, the mountain of debt trembles, and the once destitute estate begins to rise toward prosperity. Or you'll miss the climax. Lloyd eyes the trembling horizon, blood-red glare fixing on the looming threat. He wants the Black Magic King stopped before the cursed rain hits his estate. The cursed aura blocks his path, turning the ground to ash.
Lloyd chants the ancient rite, his voice cracking as the glyphs flare, while Javier watches the symbols swirl, eyes fixed on the dark sigil forming above the altar. The ritual promises to seal the breach, but the incantation mutates, spilling raw ether into the field. The ether ignites the harvested wheat, turning rows of gold into a wall of flame that devours the workers' tools. Javier lunges to snatch a burning beam, but the fire leaps, searing his armor and leaving a scar across his cheek. The fire's heat melts the newly poured concrete, undoing weeks of progress.
Lloyd shatters the cursed seal with a blinding chant, forcing a towering Hell King to erupt from the rift while the cursed fire wall collapses, trapping the workers in a vortex of swirling darkness. Javier watches helplessly as his ambition crumbles, while Lloyd pleads to the unseen deity, risking his soul to save the estate and honor the dying kingdom's promises, knowing failure would doom his lineage forever. The Hell King's crimson eyes lock onto Lloyd, snarling a prophecy of total annihilation, as the rift widens, promising an endless legion of beasts that threaten to swallow the estate whole. Fragments of an ancient evil tear the sky, and the ground beneath the estate erupts into fire. The summoner, cloaked in ash, grips a cracked stone and snarls that the wish must be granted or all will drown in a hellscape. The greatest estate developer, once a man of blueprints, stands trembling, his mind racing for a solution that could bend the cursed magic to his will. He spots the trembling sigil on the altar, realizes it feeds the god's power, and decides to shatter it with his own engineered device. The stone cracks, releasing a roar that rattles the mountains. The god's laughter fades, but the price looms.
Your wish will not be broken.
Suho, now inhabiting the slothful noble Lloyd, slams his drafting table as a thunderstorm lashes the front Terra Manor. He bolts a steam-powered lift, letting the giant hamster haul stone while Sir Garrick's guardmen watch in awe. With a wink to Princess Arya, he unveils a blueprint that could erase his family's dead overnight, just as Lord Valen's black-clad spies creep toward the construction site. The final decision hangs in the air, and the darkness waits for his move. You hear the crowds roar as every eye fixes on Lloyd Frontera, now Suho Kim in disguise. The villagers whisper that his greed spawned their famine, their loss, their dying hopes.
The unseen summoner watches the chaos unfold, impressed by the improvised orders that keep the crowd obeying without question. He wants proof that his hidden influence can steer even desperate strangers. The crowd's fear and blind trust block his plan, but the summoner's voice cuts through the panic, praising Lloyd, now Kim, for his incredible, unbelievably powerful actions. The summoner then declares, "But I am more powerful." The crowd freezes, eyes widening as the true magnitude of the unseen force becomes clear. Their hope turns to dread, realizing a higher game is being played.
Javier.
NEBAPTS.
Suho watches the fallen guard's lifeless form and feels a cold resolve harden inside him.
The hidden summoner unleashes a chaotic command that forces the panicked crowd into a coordinated charge, while Suho clings to a crumbling balcony, shouting to save his crew as the floor gives way. Suho feels his heart pound, fearing the loss of his workers and the rescue of Javier, while the summoner's unseen power threatens to crush his hopes and his inventions alike. The summoner smirks, demanding proof of Suho's ingenuity, as the trembling ground opens beneath them, leaving Suho's fate and Javier's freedom hanging in a perilous void. Skyline collapses. His final blueprint already falls into enemy hands. Lloyd, now Suho, stares at the ruined manor, death screaming from every cracked stone. He wants one thing, a plan that flips the family's fate before the creditor's hammers strike. The only tool he has is his modern engineering mind, clashing with a world that only knows magic and feudal greed. He sketches a floodgate in the dirt, pockets the quill, and shouts the design to the stunned servants. The servants gasp, realizing a new chance to save their lord, but the clock ticks louder than ever. Junwoo slams his fist on the drafting table, sparks flying as he merges rune-etched blueprints with modern zoning logic. With Princess Arya rallying the nobles, Aerie sketches floating market platforms while Mira weaves levitation sigils into the stone. Garrick's mercenaries clear the cursed swamp, and Elder Huan nods approvingly as the first profit-draining manor collapses under Junwoo's engineered quake. The greatest estate development guild rises, and the kingdom trembles. The answer is already too late. Suho Lloyd eyes the battered field and knows the only way to stop the creditors is to flood their stronghold. He orders the giant hamster to crank the newly rigged water wheels faster, sending a torrent toward the enemy camp. Suho Lloyd slams his fist on the drafting table, igniting enchanted gears that thrust massive hamster-driven wheels into overdrive, flooding the creditors' stronghold with a roaring torrent of magical water. Arya watches the rising tide swallow their last safe haven, feeling hope surge as the flood buys them time, yet fearing the loss of countless lives if the deluge overwhelms their own defenses. The water crashes against the distant ridge, revealing a hidden catapult poised to launch, while the enemy's stunned silence hints at a desperate counterstrike that could shatter the fragile victory. Skyline shatters, a thunderous blast tearing through the district as the greatest estate developers' revenge erupts in a flash of fire and stone. Suho, now Lloyd, watches the dust settle, his mind racing for a plan that can turn this ruin into a foundation. He knows the nobles will swoop in to claim the wreckage, so he rallies the white cavalry of Frontera workers, shouting that they will chase the truth and rebuild what was lost. Their resolve hardens. They grab tools instead of swords, ready to lay the first stone of a new empire. The ground trembles beneath their feet, and the first contract is already signed. And that's not even the worst part. Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, the clink of empty goblets echoing his debt-laden legacy. He slams his hand on a dusty drafting table, sketches a self-cleaning irrigation system, and commands the hulking hamster beast to haul stone. A silver-armored knight charges beside him, while flickering runes glow, sealing the blueprint that will crush the looming creditor's siege. Join the Hari squad with a sub before the system crashes. He draws his blade, and the palace walls echo with the sound of impending war. Suho, in Lloyd's body, watches the frontline shift. The elite squad he sent storms toward the King of Hell, as the battle map he drew predicted. Suho, now inhabiting Lloyd's body, unleashes a self-levitating crane that shatters the demon's artillery, sending molten steel raining onto the battlefield and forcing the enemy's frontline to collapse. He feels triumph surge as the shattered artillery grants his battered troops a fleeting hope, yet the loss of countless comrades weighs heavily, reminding him that every victory extracts a painful, irrevocable price. The Demon King watches from the Citadel's rune-warded gate, his eyes glowing with a power that threatens to seal the breach, leaving the army's desperate push toward the throne room hanging on a razor-thin thread.
Suho slams his fist on the drafting table, his mind buzzing with concrete formulas as the shabby manor walls tremble. He hoists the giant hamster onto a makeshift crane, then commands the knight to secure the foundation while chanting arcane runes. With a flash of engineered brilliance, the crumbling estate springs up, new towers sprout, debts melt away, and the once lazy noble finally stands tall, eyes blazing with future profit.
Suho awakens in Lloyd's raucous manor, slams his fist on the ledger, and sketches a self-levitating crane that lifts the debt-laden stone vaults in seconds. The giant hamster thunders beside him, while Sir Alden brandishes a rune-etched spear, clearing the guild yard of bandits.
The battlefield turns into a chaotic river of steel and water. Suho in Lloyd orders the giant hamster to haul the broken siege doors toward the enemy's flank, using the flood as cover. Sir Kaldor lifts the enchanted girders, slamming them into the enemy's barricades, creating a makeshift bridge. The water rushes beneath, carrying debris and terrified soldiers alike. Every step forward costs a piece of the estate's remaining resources, but the bridge opens a path to the enemy's keep. The cost is the loss of precious stone and the strain on the hamster's stamina. Yet the keep's gate finally cracks open. From the shattered tower, a cloaked figure watches the chaos, a bitter smile curling his lips. The battlefield quiets, yet tension crackles like static. Suho in Lloyd scrambles to rally his dwindling force, his mind racing for a new plan as the enemy's shadows close in. The giant hamster, panting, drops the last door, its muscles trembling. Suho in Lloyd grabs a broken column, hurling it toward the enemy's advancing front, buying his men a sliver of. The column crashes, splintering the Dark Soldier's formation, but the impact sends a spray of dust that blinds his own troops. In the chaos, a lone knight stumbles, sword raised, eyes fixed on the looming fragment that now threatens to consume everything. The column buys time, but at the cost of sight and certainty. Suhoin Lloyd seizes a massive iron girder, slams it into the last barricade as mercenaries surge forward, turning the tide of the collapsing battlefield. He feels the sand of his deadline slipping, knowing every second lost steals his chance to save the kingdom and his comrades from the evil god's crushing wrath. The fragment glows like a dying star, the giant hamster collapses under the weight, and unseen enemy shadows converge, leaving Suhoin Lloyd's final push hanging on a trembling, unfinished promise. Javier's death hangs over us, and I'd kill anyone to keep Jody alive. Jody grips the edge of the shattered balcony, eyes wide, refusing to accept the inevitable. She wants to stop the hidden trap that will seal their fate. The ancient sigil etched on the floor blocks her, pulsing with dark energy that threatens to shatter the stone. She lunges, slamming her palm into the sigil, forcing the runes to flare and crack. The floor trembles, sending dust raining down, but the trap's core still hums, promising another deadly turn.
Suho slams his fist on the cracked marble desk as the kingdom's coffers overflow with ruin. He sketches a floating market on a scrap of parchment, then commands Sir Gareth to rally the workers while the giant hamster gnaws through the stone barrier sealing their vault. With a flick of his wrist, magical scaffolding spirals upward, and Aria's grin widens. Lloyd's debt is crumbling beneath their new skyline. The last heartbeat echoes. What will he choose when the final door opens? Suho, now Lloyd, storms the crumbling manor's main hall. He needs to stop the foremen from abandoning the new aqueduct plan. The foremen argue that the old stone walls can't bear the pressure.
Lloyd steadies his breath, eyes fixed on the council's seal. He needs official approval to rewrite the land charter, but the royal clerk warns that direct counsel has already been granted once. No more will be approved. The clerk's stern refusal blocks his path, citing ancient law that forbids repeated divine intervention. Ignoring the warning, Lloyd pulls out a compact blueprint scroll, projecting a holographic model of a thriving town that would double tax revenue. The clerk hesitates, then stamps a provisional denial, buying Lloyd a narrow window to act. The cost: Lloyd must sacrifice his prized vintage wine, a symbol of his noble heritage, to prove his sincerity. Wait, you've already used direct advice once. Suho, now Lloyd, forces the foreman to raise the colossal stone slab, shattering the vaulted ceiling as the ancient sigil flares and a trembling hamster-shaped golem roars to life. He risks losing his family's estate and his soul, balancing on the razor-thin line between securing a priceless profit and sealing a cursed contract that could erase his lineage forever. The Demon King's ember-cloaked grin widens, his bargain hanging in the air while the council's seal trembles, leaving the fate of the tower, the market, and Lloyd's very existence hanging on a single terrifying choice.
Suho lurches from dream to dread, his eyes snapping open on Lloyd Frontera's slovenly throne. He slams his fist on the table, sketches a self-levitating crane, and commands the hulking hamster to haul stone. The knight brandishes a glowing blueprint while arcane sigils flare, promising a debt-free future built from steel and sorcery.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's drunken body, eyes blazing as he sketches a self-leveling scaffolding on a crumbling manor wall. He commands the hulking hamster to haul stone, while Sir Garin brandishes his sword to protect the crew. With a flick of his wrist, magical runes seal the foundation, and the mountain of debt trembles, begging to be rebuilt. Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's raucous manor, a mountain of debt looming over the drunken noble. He snatches the estate development manual, sketches a self-levitating irrigation system, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone. With Myra's architectural flair and a knight's sword, the cursed lands begin to rise, promising redemption. Join the Hari squad with a sub before the system crashes.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's slumped chambers, the stench of stale ale clinging to his nostrils, and immediately sketches a self-levitating scaffolding system on a scrap parchment. He convinces the hulking hamster to haul stone, while Sir Aldrich brandishes his blade to clear rival surveyors, turning the debt-burdened estate into a booming construction hub. The seal cracks, and a thin mist curls from the parchment, forming the word mold. The ink seems to pulse, as if the very magic of landcraft is waiting to be shaped. Suho feels the weight of the moment. His designs must now become reality, or the kingdom will crumble under old greed. He steadies his hand, ready to carve a new future from that single, glowing glyph. A messenger bursts into the capital bearing a sealed order. The seal shatters, releasing a curling mist that coalesces into the word mold, igniting the city's latent landcraft. Suho trembles as the ink pulse promises unrivaled power, yet threatens total ruin, forcing him to gamble his newfound influence against the possible annihilation of everything he built. The order's hidden decree remains unread. The looming mold whispers of a force that could reshape or destroy the empire, leaving Suho poised on the brink of catastrophe.
Their souls are pre-written. Even angels and demons follow the same deadly script. Dalmi, the self-proclaimed greatest estate developer, leans forward, demanding proof. He asks Raphael if his rise to angelic rank was a random blessing or a preset contract. Raphael shrugs, saying the moment any being reincarnates, its role is already set by the world's law. The archangel behind them nods, confirming that choice is an illusion. The king of hell watches, his eyes cold, knowing the cycle can never be broken. Their certainty fuels a deeper dread. The system they trust may never change. Chosen? It's not random, it's law. The answer they seek lies in the next cycle. The discussion turns to hierarchy.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, the chandelier swaying over a ledger stuffed with red ink. He snatches a half-broken gear, sketches a self-leveling scaffold, and shouts to the hulking hamster, "Help me lift this debt." The knight's visor clangs as magic spirals, and the first stone of a new fortune rises. The choice he makes now will echo through every stone he ever laid.
Suho, still in Lloyd's body, eyes the crumbling foundation of the Frontera Manor. He knows the estate will collapse unless he redirects the flow of magical energy into a new support lattice.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, the wine cellar echoing with debt collectors' snarls. He bolts to the workshop, sketches a self-levitating crane, and orders the hulking hamster to haul stone while the knight brandishes a rune-etched hammer. The contraption roars to life, lifting a mountain of taxes off the family's ledger, proof that engineering can rewrite destiny.
Junwoo slams the contract onto his desk, the ink still glistening. With a grin, he summons Han Se-ryong, and together they commandeer a vacant lot downtown, erecting a sky-piercing tower overnight using future-grade drones. Kong Minho watches helplessly as the building's holographic banner flashes, Junwoo Holdings, reborn. The city's skyline reshapes, and the first ripple of vengeance begins.
Suho rigs a steam-driven pulley to hurl the shattered sigil into the gate of reincarnation, forcing the king of hell to tumble through the chaotic rebirth portal. He feels the crushing weight of his lost chances melt as the sigil reforms, but the price extracts his blood-soaked pride, leaving his soul teetering on annihilation. The gate slams shut, yet the king's echo reverberates beyond the manor, promising a vengeful force that could shatter every foundation Suho ever built. Skyline crumbles as the developer detonates his own empire. Lloyd, now Suho, stares at the ruined manor, his family's debt written in shattered stone. He wants a way out before the creditors bleed the estate dry. The only tool he has is his civil engineering mind, but every blueprint he draws meets a wall of aristocratic pride. He tears up the old plans, sketches a water wheel that could power the whole valley, and shouts the design to the stunned servants. The manor's overseer gasps, realizing the old debt could turn into a river of profit. And that's not even the worst part.
With the barrier still standing, Lloyd turns to his allies. The giant hamster, the steadfast knight, and the lingering magic of the realm to reinforce his defenses. He wants a permanent solution that will finally erase his family's debt. The lingering curse, however, seeps into the stone, threatening to undo their work. Lloyd commands the hamster to dig deep trenches, the knight to place protective sigils, and the magic to seal the fissures. The earth obeys, forming a network of hidden channels that divert the cursed water. The cost: the hamster collapses under the strain, and the knight's armor cracks, exposing his vulnerability.
Lloyd hurls the blood-soaked blueprint into the sorcerer's black vortex, channeling his engineered concrete fur into a blinding shield that erupts, splintering the dark storm and momentarily sealing the estate's heart. He feels his family's legacy teeter on the edge, blood trickling from his palm as the hamster strains, and the knight's shattered sigils waver, each breath threatening the loss of everything he's built. The rival sorcerer gathers a swirling mass of obsidian wind, eyes burning with cruel intent, leaving the trench cracked open and the estate's fate hanging on a trembling, unfinished seal.
Suho Lloyd slams his fist onto the drafting table, eyes blazing as he sketches a levitating scaffold that channels raw mana into concrete. The giant hamster thunders beside him, hoisting stone pillars while Sir Roderick swings his sword to clear the cursed quarry. With Junwoo's market insight whispering in his ear, Suho detonates the debt-laden manor's foundations, turning ruin into a soaring citadel before the sun even rises. Suho awakens in Lloyd's slovenly chambers, the scent of stale ale clinging to his robes. He slams a hand-drawn blueprint onto the table, eyes blazing as he outlines a self-levitating scaffold that will lift the family's mortgaged manor above the looming tax collectors.
Someone is already testing the new ward. What other players have heard the seal's call? Join the Hari squad with a sub before the system crashes. Lloyd style, Suho scrambles to keep his family afloat. He needs a quick cash flow before creditors seize the manor. The only asset left is the dilapidated north wing, still full of timber and stone. He orders the workers to dismantle it, but the old beams snap under the weight of rusted tools, halting progress. Suho grabs a spare hammer, rallies the crew, and forces the beams apart with raw force. You hear the echo of footsteps at the mansion gates. Javier returns, his silhouette framed by the sunrise. Suho watches him approach, hoping the newcomer brings the missing ally he has been longing for. Javier stops, eyes scanning the courtyard, then nods toward the unfinished wall, indicating he has found the person Suho needs. Suho's heart races. He realizes the ally could finally push the project over the line. Yet Javier shakes his head, refusing to bring that person, leaving Suho grasping at a promise that slips away. What comes next changes everything. Suho turns to the council, demanding the missing engineer's aid, his voice cracking with urgency. The council members exchange glances, their silence a wall of denial.
Javier storms the manor gates at sunrise, unveiling the long-sought engineer whose demon lift expertise could finally finish the north wing before the Lord's deadline. Suho watches his family teeter on collapse, knowing a single misstep will drown them in debt and disgrace, while a successful contract could restore honor and secure their future. The council shutters the door on Javier's plea, citing protocol, leaving the unfinished wall exposed to nightfall and the looming siege, with Suho's desperate gamble hanging by a thread.
Lloyd Frontera vanished, and the Dragon King's oath sealed the kingdom's doom. The royal court presses a trembling servant to recall the forgotten pact. The servant wants the Dragon King's entry pass to save the realm, but the memory is buried in a failed reincarnation. He rattles his throat, repeats the ancient prayer, and forces the court's attention on the lost hero. The king's eyes flare with desperate hope, yet the throne's weight drags the kingdom toward ruin.
We cannot waste another sunrise.
The hunt for the past begins, and the shadows already stir. The commander leans over a cracked map, convinced a single clue could turn fate.
A stern voice cuts through the room. That it? I thought you might smile this time. Sorry. I'm not scolding you. The speaker leans in, eyes boring into Lloyd, accusing him of endless gloom. What's the point of working hard if you always wear that sad face? That's why you're always alone. He mentions a client employee who once chased Lloyd, now confused by his silence. Lloyd feels a sting of guilt. His neglect cost a potential ally. He clenches his jaw, refusing to let the accusation derail his plans. But the sting lingers, reminding him that every ignored plea adds debt to his family's ledger.
Suho slams the drafting table, gears whirring as his engineered aqueduct slices through the debt-laden manor's foundations. The giant hamster thunders beside him, hauling stone while Sir Cedric brandishes a glowing hammer. With a flash of rune-lit steel, the cursed mortgage shatters, and the once impoverished Frontera estate blooms into a thriving township, defying fate itself.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd's wine-splattered chambers, the weight of a mountain-high debt crushing his cheekbones. He snatches a battered ledger, sketches a self-leveling scaffolding, and shouts to the hulking hamster beast, "Lay the foundation now!" The knight clanks forward, sword gleaming, while arcane runes pulse, promising a skyline that could crush Lord Guanho's greed forever. Lloyd dashes toward the Dragon King's entry pass as massive stone blocks tremble, while Suho Lloyd rigs a steam-powered pulley and the giant hamster hoists the debt-laden archway. Lloyd feels the kingdom's survival hinge on that pass. His lingering scar throbs, and the fire of revenge clashes with the yearning for redemption inside his wounded heart. The archway cracks, the hamster strains, the Dragon King's shadow looms, and the pass remains out of reach, leaving the kingdom teetering on the brink of collapse.
Greatest estate developer, known as Miko, stands amid a collapsing district, his eyes scanning the distortion field that devours everything. He demands answers, shouting at the unseen force that dragged him here. Echo's voice trembles. "How did y'all get in here?" He replies, explaining that he sealed the with potent magi, hoping the pattern would cut the breach. Yet the distortion still pulses, refusing to yield. He realizes his only chance is to redraw the sigil with greater power, risking his own life to seal the rift. The cost. His energy drains, and the ground beneath his feet cracks further.
I asked Tyrannus. He said a pattern could dispel it.
Suho snaps awake in Lloyd Frontera's raucous manner, the scent of cheap ale clinging to his nose. He slams a hand-drawn blueprint onto the table, eyes blazing as the giant hamster squeaks approvingly. "We'll mine the hill, build a water wheel, and sell the surplus," he declares, the knight's armor clanking in anticipation. The debt-laden estate trembles, the first stone of a new empire set in place.
Hey y'all, you know that cafe from last time?
Lloyd eyes the distant hill where the last shipment vanished, knowing the next delivery must arrive before the moon rises. Han Se-ryong and Yumina stand ready, but a sudden rockslide blocks the mountain pass, sealing the route. Frustrated, Lloyd orders the knights to craft a sliding platform from the fallen stones, while the hamster channels extra mana into its back. The platform slides down the slope, delivering the timber just as the sun dips. The crew cheers, but the hamster collapses, exhausted, its glow fading. The cost: a weakened beast and a night of restless sleep for the workers. Suho Kim slams the shattered ledger, sketches a self-levitating crane, and commands the giant hamster to haul the final timber shipment up the crumbling cliff as a landslide erupts behind it. Lloyd feels the weight of his family's ruin lift as the timber nears, but the roar of collapsing rock threatens to crush his hopes, leaving his pride and the estate's salvation hanging by a thread. The hamster stalls, steam hissing, while the unfinished tower trembles against the bruised sky, and the blocked mountain pass leaves the next delivery dangling in darkness,
daring the crew to defy fate.
The greatest estate developer detonates the skyscraper. The city's fate now balances on ruin. Lloyd's debt tower crumbles, fire licking the sky as the Frontera family watches their legacy burn. Suho, trapped in Lloyd's body, feels the heat of failure and the weight of a collapsing future. He grabs the nearest blueprint, tears it from the flames, and sketches a new support system with his engineering mind racing. The family's hope flickers, but his plan could buy them minutes if the fire doesn't consume the ground first. The crowd whispers that a miracle might return the lost developer.
Is that really you, Javier?
What everyone in Frontera longs to see is not your abilities, OBA.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd's crumbling manor, the scent of stale ale mingling with the weight of unpaid taxes. He slams his fist on the drafting table, sketches a self-levitating crane, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone while Sir Rowan eyes the blueprint skeptically. "We'll turn this debt into a skyline," he declares, sparks of modern engineering crackling against Aria's ancient magic.
The newly risen tower gleams, but its crystal-capped peak still trembles under the weight of unfinished contracts. Lloyd needs to seal the final joint before the magical core overheats and destroys everything. The hamster growls, sensing the strain, while the knight grips his sword tighter, ready to defend the structure. Lloyd slams a final gear into the core, his hands slick with sweat, and the runes flare bright, stabilizing the tower's spine. The entire estate shudders, then steadies, as the debt scrolls burn to ash in the furnace below. The triumph feels fragile, and a distant horn sounds, warning of unseen enemies. A silent shadow watches the tower's new height, ready to strike. Suho slams his hand-drawn blueprint onto the tavern table, igniting the self-levitating crane that commands the massive hamster to hoist Lloyd's crumbling manor walls skyward in a thunderous, spiraling surge. Lloyd clutches the fleeting proof of salvation, fearing the manor's ruin will erase his legacy, and that one misstep will shatter Suho's newfound trust, sealing both their fates in ash. The crystal-capped tower trembles as the magical core overheats. The hamster stalls mid-lift, and the manor teeters on the brink of collapse, leaving everyone hanging over a yawning abyss.
Lloyd Frontera binds himself to the Magenta Queen, a pact that threatens to shatter the Empire. The ancestral spirits loom, their voices echoing the ancient covenant. Lloyd, trembling with the weight of his lineage, knows refusal would break the kingdom's sacred law and plunge the realm into chaos. He forces his throat open, letting the decree roll out despite the fear gnawing at his heart. The spirits listen, their eyes like molten rubies, and the pact seals as his words hang in the chilled air.
I accept the ancestors' command and sacred law.
The curse now rides on his newly forged vow, and that's not even the worst part.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's disheveled chambers, the stench of cheap ale mingling with overdue debt notices. He snatches a battered sketchpad, drafts a self-leveling scaffolding system, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone blocks while Sir Garrick, the stoic knight, watches skeptically. With a flick of his wrist, magical runes seal the foundation, turning despair into a blueprint for redemption.
The night of the festival arrives, lanterns flicker, and the crowd swells like a living tide. Lloyd slips the stone lattice into the central plaza, hidden beneath a decorative arch. The first firework erupts, its boom shaking the ground, but the lattice hums, a low vibration that ripples through the stones.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's body, the debt-drowning noble, and instantly sketches a self-levitating scaffolding with chalk on the manor's crumbling walls. The giant hamster snorts, the knight brandishes his blade, and magic swirls around the blueprint. Every gear turns toward a towering citadel that will crush the looming creditors and rewrite the family's fate.
Suho Kim awakens as Lloyd Frontera, slumped over a tavern table while his family's debts loom like storm clouds. He sketches a self-levitating crane, bolts it together with enchanted gears, and orders the giant hamster to haul the first stone. The skeptical knight watches, then nods as the foundation rises. Proof that modern engineering can rewrite a noble's fate.
An elder lawyer steps forward, parchment in hand, reading the ancient law aloud. He warns that any refusal triggers immediate execution, a clause etched into the kingdom's founding charter. Lloyd knows that denying the queen means his line ends, and his engineered plans crumble. The lawyer's cold tone blocks any negotiation, while the knight behind him tightens his grip on his sword, ready to enforce the decree. Lloyd feels the crushing weight of inevitability, yet a spark of ingenuity flickers. Perhaps his modern knowledge can outmaneuver even death itself. He must decide, knowing the cost will be his very existence.
Refusal means death. Anyone sharing the queen's chambers must wed her.
A delighted voice gushes over the newborn, marveling at the round eyes that mirror her own. She wants to claim the child as a perfect reflection of herself, a living proof of her beauty and power. The royal guard's stern stare blocks any hesitation, demanding protocol over sentiment. She clutches the infant tighter, whispering praise for his strength, intelligence, and protective aura, then declares his name with pride. Her words seal his identity, binding him to a destiny that already feels scripted. The room holds its breath, aware that naming a child can rewrite a kingdom's future.
Lloyd defies the ancient seal, shatters its glowing core, and roars, "Goo!" as the Covenant's binding light fractures, sending the hall's vaulted darkness spiraling into chaos. He risks forfeiting his family's lands and bloodline while gaining a fierce spark of rebellion. The queen's authority trembles, and the giant hamster braces to shield the throne. The cracked seal erupts a dark pulse. The newborn's cry reverberates, and the archivist's smudged ink reveals a hidden prophecy that could doom or redeem them all.
The stolen Ondal tech floods the market cheap, bankrupting the empire in minutes. Miko, the self-proclaimed greatest estate developer, watches his profits evaporate as rival firms undercut his prices. He demands an explanation from his subcontractors, but they only hand him a terse cancellation notice. Their workers have already left his site, and the contract penalties loom like a guillotine. Frustration spikes into fury. He threatens to sue for breach, while the rival's cheaper offer spreads like wildfire. The loss of the heating installations threatens every upcoming project, and the first domino has already fallen.
We cancel. Pay the penalty.
And that's not even the worst part. The news spreads like wildfire. Townsfolk chant the name Ondal, as if it were a deity. Lloyd watches crowds celebrate the comfort his invention brings, feeling a hollow pride. Yet every cheer reminds him of the endless petitions demanding more, of the sleepless nights spent tweaking designs. He wonders why gratitude turns to relentless expectation, why the very thing that saved his family now shackles him to endless production. The weight of the kingdom's reliance settles on his shoulders, and a quiet dread settles in his gut.
Why is he only magnanimous about Ondal?
The kingdom's applause masks a ticking time bomb.
Suho-possessed Lloyd slams a glowing contract in the guild hall, igniting the ink into a blazing sigil that forces the kingdom's officials to pledge every profit to his expanding Ondal empire. Lloyd feels the crushing weight of a nation's hope and his own hollow pride, realizing each celebratory chant binds him tighter to a system that could either elevate his legacy or shatter his soul. The ink sigil flares, the guild doors burst open, and a shadowy figure steps forward, demanding the secret of the river turbine before the contract can seal the kingdom's fate.
Suho as Lloyd slams his fist on the cracked ledger, eyes blazing. He rigs the royal garden's irrigation into a hydro pump that powers a low-cost water wheel, then commands the giant hamster to haul stone slabs for a new market square. The lazy noble's debts melt away as merchants line up, and the once-dying fief erupts into a bustling hub of profit. Suho, now inhabiting the indolent noble Lloyd Frontera, slams his palm on a dusty ledger and sketches a water-powered lift that could slash the family's mountain of debt. He bolts the contraption together while the giant hamster gnaws the supporting beams. The knight brandishes a flaming torch, and arcane runes pulse, promising a future built on steel, not sorrow.
The overseer calls for the day's wages, his fingers twitching over the ledger, as if counting every coin could seal his power. The boy steps forward, demanding his share, but the overseer sneers, claiming the payment is delayed until later. The boy's frustration spikes. He sees the ledgers blank where his name should be. Around them, murmurs rise. Workers whisper that the overseer never intends to pay. The boy clenches his fists, realizing his labor might be forever unpaid, and the overseer's indifference fuels a quiet rebellion.
When the pay?
The question lingers, promising a clash over broken promises.
Lloyd stands beside the Viscount, both breathing hard, knowing the next move could rewrite their fate. Their goal: prove to the onlookers that they can change the tide of ridicule and poverty. The obstacle is the lingering distrust of the common folk, still raw from hunger and scorn. Lloyd lifts his hand, signaling the hamster to pull the unfinished scaffolding into place, while the Viscount nods, ready to endorse the risky demonstration. The structure rises, shaky but real, and the crowd's murmurs shift from mockery to tentative hope. A single creak in the wood hints that the real test has just begun.
Viscount whips the trembling boy, the crack echoing like a death knell, while Suho, awakened in Lloyd Frontera's debt-laden tavern, sketches a levitating crane and commands a massive hamster to haul stone. Lloyd feels his family's pride teeter on collapse, the hunger-starved child's bitter berries burning his conscience as humiliation and desperation clash, threatening everything he strives to rebuild. Viscount and Lloyd stand, breath ragged, their next move poised to either shatter ridicule or seal their downfall, leaving the giant hamster poised above the crumbling manor's dark abyss.
Suho, now the slothful noble Lloyd, slams his sketchbook onto the banquet table, eyes blazing as he unveils a self-levitating scaffolding system. The hall erupts. Lord Huang's smug grin crumbles when the contraption lifts a mountain of debt-laden stone, placing it atop his own treasury. Myra's sharp grin meets his. Together they draft a blueprint that will rewrite the kingdom's very soil.
Suho awakens in Lloyd's splayed chambers, the clamor of debtors echoing from the manor's stone walls. He sketches a floating aqueduct on a scrap parchment, then commands the giant hamster to haul the massive stone arches into place. Suho slams the ancient ledger, eyes blazing as he sketches a self-levitating scaffold on parchment. With Lloyd's drunken grin, he commands the giant hamster to haul stone, while Myra's rune-etched blueprints pulse with estate magic. The rival Lord Huang watches, jaw clenched, as the first tower rises, proof that modern engineering can crush centuries of debt. The market's stone arches tremble as Lloyd Frontera, clutching a copper coil, commands the crowd to watch his newest contraption. He unveils a self-leveling foundation that slides into place with a hiss, instantly stabilizing the cracked plaza. Murmurs turn to cheers when the giant hamster nudges the final gear, sealing the seal of safety.
Suho, fused with Lloyd's drunken body, slams the ancient ledger and conjures a self-levitating crane that hoists a mountain of stone, while the giant hamster roars approval as the dam's skeletal frame rises against a blood-red sky. Villagers teeter between salvation and ruin as Suho's flood threatens to drown their homes. Yet his daring plan promises endless harvests, forcing the Viscount to beg for mercy and risk losing his title forever. The unfinished dam looms ominously, its cracked foundations trembling under unseen forces, leaving the river's surge ready to burst, and the giant hamster's exhausted eyes hinting at a hidden power that could either seal or shatter the valley's fate. The
skyline crumbles. The blood-eating debt of his empire screams for revenge. Suho awakens, not in his dorm, but in the body of Lloyd Frontera, a slothful noble drenched in wine, staring at a ledger buried in ash. He feels panic flare as the weight of a mountain-high debt presses his chest. The only clue is a half-forgotten name echoing in his mind. Greatest estate developer. He grips the ledger, forcing his modern engineering brain to map the ruins. The first step is to locate the hidden blueprint that could rewrite his family's fate. And that's not even the worst part.
The greatest estate developer.
Lloyd, now Suho, stumbles through the manor's dim corridors, desperate to remember how he arrived.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, the debt-laden banners fluttering like funeral flags. He snatches the ancient blueprint, sketches a self-leveling scaffolding, and commands the massive hamster to haul stone columns into the sky. The drunken noble watches, eyes widening, as the first stone pierces the clouds, proof that engineering can rewrite even a cursed lineage.
Stay sub to Manwa with Hari, or you'll miss the climax. Lloyd stares at the trembling figure across the table, fearing the power that once froze time itself. He wants the ancient artifact back to stop the curse on his family. The cracked seal on the pedestal blocks his reach, pulsing with magic.
Lloyd seizes the ancient artifact, shattering the seal, releasing raw dimensional energy that tears the tavern walls. Suho watches his blueprint burn, fearing the loss of his life's work while Lloyd teeters on the brink of annihilating his cursed family line. A nightmarish silhouette erupts from the shattered mirror, its molten form hovering over the half-gone artifact, promising an impossible bargain that could consume everything.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's slumped throne room, a goblet clinking against a pile of unpaid bills. He slams his hands on a drafting table, sketches a self-levitating scaffolding, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone for a sky-piercing manor. Across town, Lee Jun-ho flips the estate manual, summons Han Soo-jin's land runes, and watches the cursed black land crumble beneath a newly forged tower. Suho, now inhabiting the slothful noble Lloyd Frontera, slams his engineering textbooks onto the banquet table, eyes blazing. He sketches a self-levitating scaffolding that will lift the family's crumbling manor onto a floating platform, while the giant hamster gnaws through the cursed roots binding their debts.
The shattered tower collapses, sending a cascade of stone onto the battlefield. Suho's giant hamster, now frenzied, darts between the debris, gnawing at a cursed ledger that still glows with debt's dark aura. The hamster's teeth shred the ink, each bite releasing a burst of bright dust that momentarily blinds the attacking tribes. Suho needs the ledger destroyed to free his family from the magical bond of debt. Yet the ledger's heavy iron cover resists the hamster's bite. He grabs a nearby pickaxe, hammers the cover open, and the hamster finally tears through the last page, turning the debt into ash. The ash swirls into the wind, but a lingering curse lingers, whispering promises of retribution. Lloyd gathers his old comrades, Peepotong the blacksmith, Bangle the scout, Haman the cook, and Combing the scribe, around a cracked tavern table. Their goal is a reunion after years of scattered battles and debts. The obstacle, lingering resentment and the shadow of past failures that still sting each of them. Lloyd raises a mug, forcing a grin, and forces the group to speak their hopes aloud. The others mirror his forced optimism, sharing brief, shaky updates on their lives. Their tentative smiles crack the ice, and the meeting ends with a promise to face the looming mountain together. What comes next changes everything. The silence settles as the four walk down the winding path toward the estate site.
Suho harnesses the thunderous charge of the colossal hamster, channeling it through a brass contraption to launch a gravity-defying aqueduct that reshapes the estate's very foundation. Lloyd feels his legacy teeter on the edge as his comrades rally, fearing the beast's wrath could erase their hard-won debts, while the new blueprint promises unrivaled power and redemption. The massive furred titan stares, its ancient eyes flickering with unreadable intent, leaving the party frozen as the ground trembles, hinting that the creature's next move could destroy everything.
Suho Asloid slams a crude wooden crane into the cliffside, sparks flying as his engineered pulley system hoists the first load of stone. The giant hamster churns furiously, powering the gears while Sir Cedric steadies the scaffold. Below, impatient nobles glare, but the newly minted ledger already shows a profit margin, proof that modern engineering can outshine ancient debt. Suho, now the slothful noble Lloyd, slams his fist on the ancient ledger, then sketches a floating bridge that siphons river currents into a crystal-clear reservoir. The giant hamster thunders across the courtyard, hauling stone while Sir Cedric watches, jaw clenched.
The tension snaps as someone shouts, "Start! Hunt more!" Victory goes to the last standing. The crowd erupts, urging Emily to stay still while the pretty girl is singled out for a cruel test. Fear spikes. Emily freezes, caught between survival and the cruel spectacle forced upon her. The sudden command could turn a family dispute into a deadly showdown, and no one knows who will survive the blood-soaked game. Emily, stay still. That pretty little girl chose her battle. The arena of accusations is about to become a battlefield. A guttural growl rolls through the hall as the aggressor declares, "She's small, weak, a looming threat."
Javier snaps his fingers, demanding the guard step aside, then whispers a plan to end the nightmare quickly. He wants to free the girl trapped in the slave market, but the ironclad guards block any sudden move. He darts forward, seizes the girl's wrist, and drags her toward the hidden exit, his heart pounding as the crowd's cries grow louder. The girl bursts into the night, her breath ragged, while the guards scramble, too late to stop her. But the real problem is already in motion.
A lone human bursts into the arena, his strange, cute aura masking lethal intent, as 10 massive beasts tear at Sharona while the crowd roars, "Front Terra," and the tiny warrior refuses to yield. Javier's guilt erupts, his voice cracking as he teeters between confessing his kin's betrayal and plotting a desperate rescue, while Sharona clutches her last shield, fearing she will lose everything. The guards close in, the girl remains trapped in the slave market, and the mysterious newcomer's true purpose hangs unrevealed, leaving the battle's outcome hanging on a razor-thin thread.
Skyscraper collapses. The developer's empire crumbles in seconds. Miko, the so-called greatest estate developer, stands amid the wreckage, his reputation hanging by a thread. He shouts that the day's work is finally done, desperate to convince himself the project survived. The ruined site, tangled steel and dust, refuses to cooperate, reminding him that every promise he made to investors is now a lie. He forces a strained grin, waves his crew away, and claims victory even as the foundations buckle. The crew, exhausted, files out, unaware that the collapse will echo louder than any applause.
Good work. We're done for today.
And that's not even the worst part.
He hears a hushed whisper about offending someone, his mind racing for a solution while the night crew packs up. The junior wants guidance on how to smooth over the slight, yet he feels out of depth with his own social blunders. He promises to return tomorrow, masking uncertainty with a casual "see you," while the senior mutters that getting close to the mysterious worker is tough. A sudden shout, "Jump! Are you all right?" cuts through the tension, leaving everyone bewildered. The crew's confusion spikes, and the newcomer's reputation grows murkier.
See you tomorrow.
The mystery behind the jump remains unresolved.
A silent onlooker watches a diligent worker whose expression scares even the guards. He wants to know the man's true nature, suspecting kindness beneath the grim stare. The worker's cold tone and irritating speech block the onlooker's curiosity, keeping the truth hidden. The onlooker steps forward, asks a blunt question, and the worker replies with a curt, "I'm just doing my job." The worker returns to his task, leaving the onlooker with only a vague impression of kindness wrapped in annoyance. The cost? The onlooker walks away, still unsure who to trust. You watch the scholar slam his books shut, swearing he'll never study again. He wants freedom from endless tutoring, convinced talent alone should carry him forward. Lloyd and his giant hamster grum stand on a cracked foundation as the city skyline shudders, the ground splitting beneath them, threatening collapse. Lloyd fights despair, refusing surrender, while the trembling apprentice watches, hoping his mentor's gamble either rescues their family from debt or shatters everything they've built. A silent onlooker eyes the cold-hearted worker, and the looming crack widens, leaving the fate of the estate and the mysterious hamster's power hanging precariously.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's drunken body, stumbles onto a hulking hamster perched atop a cracked stone, and instantly sketches a self-levitating bridge. While the knight brandishes a glowing hammer, Junhyuk, now a rival developer, fires a legal salvo, forcing Kong Min-soo's men to retreat. The new estate rises, debt crumbling beneath the humming magic. Suho awakens in Lloyd's rickety manor, finds the family ledger buried in dust, and shoves a crude lever he sketched on a napkin. The floor erupts, revealing a hidden tunnel lined with glittering aqueducts. His giant hamster, Hambam, darts ahead, dragging a sack of enchanted stone. Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's slumped chambers, the scent of cheap wine still clinging to his robes. He slams open the manor's cracked ledger, eyes blazing as he sketches a water wheel blueprint on parchment. With a thunderous bark, the giant hamster, Hamsterion, stomps forward, while Sir Calder, the stoic knight, steadies his lance. Together they rally the peasant workers, and the first stone of a debt-crushing tower rises under Suho's engineered spell.
The tavern erupts in uneasy laughter as the drunk's manic chuckles echo off the walls. He tries to hide his fear behind a manic grin, wanting to convince everyone he's still in control. Rumors swirl about a viral romance fantasy that exploded on the kingdom's feed, a meteor-like launch of love that nobody expected. The crowd swears it isn't romance at all, yet they can't look away from the spectacle. Readers flood the comment scroll, cursing the author for daring to blend love with engineering. The title, Healing Life in Another World with Civil Engineering Skills, becomes a meme, spawning endless parodies. Lloyd watches the frenzy, wondering if any of that hype can fund his next construction. The frenzy fuels a sudden surge of investors, but the backlash threatens to blacklist the publisher forever.
Lloyd slams the dusty blueprint, summons the giant hamster, and commands it to haul the massive stone slab through the jammed steel door, igniting a desperate race against the looming deadline. He feels the sting of betrayal as the ghosted promise resurfaces, risking his reputation and the crew's future while the weight of unfinished stone presses on his soul. The locked frame remains unbroken, the mysterious stranger's legend looms, and Lloyd's unresolved past whispers, leaving the site teetering on collapse and his destiny hanging precariously. All his saved fortune vanishes, and the blood-soaked blueprint waits for his final gamble. Suho, trapped in Lloyd's body, stares at the empty ledger and feels his future crumble. He wants to retrieve the money to keep his family from ruin, but the royal tax collector's men seal the vault doors and the debt collectors brandish swords. He rips the ledger from the desk, slams it against the stone wall, and shouts for anyone who can hear. The parchment tears, spilling ink like a wound, and the collectors retreat, fearing a magical backlash. Yet the vault stays locked, and his hope cracks like dry wood, and that's only the opening move.
Suho scrambles to the edge of the barrier, searching for any clue that might lead to a heaven-like refuge. He spots a faint glow behind a cracked pillar and urges his companion to look, hoping for a shared vision of salvation. The companion nods, eyes narrowing, and points toward a hidden alcove that pulses with warm light. Suho lunges, but the barrier snaps shut, sealing the alcove away. He slams his palm against the invisible wall, feeling the resistance like steel. The cost. His hands bleed from the force, and the promise of peace slips further from his grasp.
Look over there, maybe it's a clue.
Suho Lloyd shatters the barrier, forcing a portal to flare as the Watcher's glitched shall symbol ignites, spilling raw wish energy into the lower world. He feels his son's distant safety surge like a fragile beacon, while the weight of countless unseen deaths crushes his hopes for redemption. The glitching glyph flickers, promising limitless power but demanding a sacrifice, leaving Suho Lloyd teetering on the brink of becoming the very force that could annihilate everything.
He abandoned love, racing to a bomb-filled tower that would crush the city. Suho, now trapped in Lloyd Frontera's drunken body, hears a royal decree echoing through Magenta's cold stone. The kingdom just survived the Winter Heart rampage, and the crown demands an immediate survey of the ruined estates. Lloyd's family drowns in debt, so his only chance is to prove his worth before the treasury seizes their lands. He grabs his sketchbook, flips to a fresh page, and sketches a water-powered mill that could feed the starving capital. The king's messenger eyes the design, then nods, granting a tight deadline. And that's not even the worst part.
Your plan saves us, but time runs out.
A servant drags a massive portrait into the throne room, its colors vivid enough to pulse with the painter's devotion. Everyone circles, trying to identify the subject, each guess more frantic than the last. The court scholar admits he never saw such a handsome man, urging them to look closer. The king sweats, admitting ignorance, while a nervous whisper spreads. The portrait depicts the meritorious subject, Lloyd Frontera. The revelation hits like a hammer. Lloyd sees himself immortalized, his reputation suddenly a public asset.
His brilliance is undeniable, his face questionable.
A noble leans close, whispering that Lloyd's heart burns hotter than any noble's, his sense of duty outshining every polished smile in the hall. A sudden gust sweeps through the courtyard as the royal seal glows brighter, the ancient rune Fu flaring against the stone. Lloyd feels a chill crawl up his spine. The omen hints at fortune, yet the air feels heavy with unseen pressure. He wants to interpret the sign, hoping it means the queen's favor will finally turn his way. The lingering curse of the land spirit blocks any clear reading, whispering that luck comes with a price. He clenches his fists, decides to press forward with the statues despite the unknown, and orders the workers to begin the final placement. The consequence: the first stone cracks under the weight of unseen magic, sending a tremor through the palace grounds. The tremor echoes, and everyone wonders what ancient force just awakened.
The royal seal ignites, the ancient Fu rune flaring against the stone, and Lloyd watches the luminous omen explode across the courtyard, shattering the court's composure and threatening to rewrite his destiny. He feels his reputation teetering on a razor's edge, his desperate need for Arya's approval and the queen's favor colliding with the dread of being stripped of honor and reduced to a laughingstock. The glowing rune pulses, promising fortune while whispering catastrophe, leaving Lloyd trembling as unseen forces converge, and the audience wonders whether the omen crowns him king or casts him into oblivion. Developer's power grid collapses, and starving beasts tear through the unfinished skyline. Lloyd watches the lights flicker out, his mind racing for a backup plan. Javier shouts, demanding a solution, while the beasts close in on the half-built towers. Lloyd grabs the emergency manual, flips to his engineering notes, and starts rerouting the remaining generators. The city's glow sputters, but a thin beam reaches the highest crane, buying them seconds.
We're losing everything.
And that's not even the worst part. Lloyd surveys the humming consoles and sees the numbers flatline, Energy is insufficient to power the new foundations. He knows the whole project will crumble without power, and the beasts outside grow louder with each minute.
Suho jolts awake in Lloyd's wine-stained chambers, the weight of a mountain-high debt pressing on his chest. He snatches the schematics of a forgotten aqueduct, sketches a self-leveling crane, and commands the giant hamster to haul stone blocks across the courtyard. The skeptical knight watches as the first brick of a debt-crushing manor rises, glinting with future glory.
Suho, now Lloyd Frontera, slams his fist on the dusty desk, sketches a self-levitating scaffold, and orders the giant hamster to haul the cursed stone slab aside. The sleepy noble's drunken crew watches in awe as the contraption lifts the family's mortgaged manor 3 meters into the air, buying precious time before Kong Hyun-soo's agents storm the estate.
Lloyd's mind races. The echo of his own hollow laugh from earlier still rings in his ears, mocking his failure. He needs a way to stall the beasts long enough to get the child to safety. The canyon walls close in, the shadows thickening, and the beast's snarls grow deafening, cutting off any chance of a calm retreat. He grabs a loose boulder, hurls it down the gorge, hoping the noise distracts the predators. The boulder crashes, sending a plume of dust and a burst of frantic movement among the beasts. For a breath, the creatures pivot, eyeing Lloyd a sliver of hope. What comes next changes everything. Suho, in Lloyd's drunken body, commandeers the giant hamster, rigs a levitating crane and launches the towering knight over the canyon. He risks losing the child's life while clutching the terrified youngster, feeling the weight of debt and his own failure crushing his hope. The distant lantern flickers, its light beckoning. But canyon walls close, beasts roar, and the child's trembling grip hints at a betrayal that could plunge them into darkness. The manor erupts as an invader's grenade shatters the courtyard, fire licking the stone walls. Lloyd, the Baron's reluctant ward, scrambles to the shattered door, breath ragged, desperate to prove he isn't a traitor. Javier, the hired agent, blocks the exit, eyes wild, shouting accusations that cut through the roar of explosions. Lloyd's mind races. He must keep the invader out and protect the Baron's legacy. But the sudden chaos and mistrust freeze his limbs. He lunges forward, tackling the agent, sending both crashing into a column that collapses under their weight. The blast leaves the manor's heart exposed, and a hidden enemy watches from the shadows.
You are the orphan the Baron picked up.
Suho slams his fist on the cracked tavern table, eyes blazing as the giant hamster thunders into the room, scattering ale and debt notices alike. He sketches a levitating scaffold on a napkin, then commands the knight to erect it in minutes, an instant market hub that draws merchants from across Arlen. The crowd gasps, the Frontera fortunes tremble on the brink of salvation.
The clerk wonders if he can ever tell the difference between those worth saving and those doomed from birth.
A lone knight, KN, appears, his armor clanking, eyes fixed on the manor's crumbling walls. He wants to prove his worth by defending the estate, yet his own doubts gnaw louder than any enemy shout. The knight charges toward the looming siege, only to stumble over a broken cart, his resolve cracking. He scrambles up, blood staining his gauntlet, and vows to stand firmer than the stones beneath him. The manor's shadow deepens, and the invader's drums grow nearer. The celebration turns into a siege, and Lloyd must decide if his dreams can survive another battle. The crystal's glow fades, plunging the workshop into darkness as Lloyd merges with Javier's spell, his mind exploding with schematics for towering estates that could rewrite the village's fate. Lloyd swallows a rush of hope while the villagers chant, yet the Baron's cruel shadow and mounting debts gnaw at his confidence, threatening the fragile redemption he desperately seeks. Javier's seal spikes wildly, crackling with volatile energy as a lone knight storms the crumbling manor, leaving the fate of the estate and Lloyd's life hanging on a trembling blade.
Suho awakens in Lloyd Frontera's rickety manor, debt collectors looming like storm clouds. He bolts to the drafting table, sketches a self-levitating crane, and commands the giant hamster to haul timber to the cliffside. With Kim Haeare's blueprints and Park Min-suk's ledger, the new noble launches the first sky bridge, slashing the Beck land baron's monopoly in a single, thunderous span.
Suho's eyes snap open to a roaring tavern, his soul fused to Lloyd Frontera's slothful body. He slams a hand-drawn aqueduct schematic onto a rickety table, eyes blazing as the giant hamster snorts approval. The knight's armor clangs, magic crackles, ready to power his contraptions. Suho wants a hero's name to rally the people, but the scribes argue the protagonist's identity is already set in stone. He watches the crowd chant for a new moniker, their excitement crackling like static. Ignoring the doubts, he crowns the gentle giant Bodhisattva, praising his kindness as true love. The crowd roars, the nickname spreads like wildfire, and morale spikes. Yet a whisper spreads. Why does Go Jaeyoung smile at Suho with such unsettling kindness? The question gnaws, hinting at hidden alliances that could topple the fragile peace.
Why is Go Jaeyoung so nice?
The mystery deepens as loyalty wavers. Suho aims to seal the final victory, but the climax feels flat without a true challenge. The creator hears fans ramble about fried DLM pling and carrot jokes, and his heart jumps. He wants to show that those odd comments mattered, that every quirky tweet kept his spirit alive. The endless flood of messages threatens to drown him in noise, but he clutches the memory of eating DLM pling every day. He writes a wild, rambling paragraph, mixing gratitude with absurdity, crediting the legendary massage paradogs meme that oddly inspired a plot twist. The afterword becomes a collage of gratitude and nonsense, sealing his 10-year debut. He stares at a blank screen, desperate to finish the afterword before the deadline. All his prepared jokes feel hollow now, and his mind refuses to cooperate.
Lloyd watches the lever being assembled, the metal clanking like a promise. He wants the system to work flawlessly, to prove his vision can lift his family out of ruin. The foreman, wary of the strange onion-shaped component lodged in the mechanism, warns that the piece is hollow and might collapse under pressure. Lloyd ignores the warning, insisting the onion is merely symbolic, a token of love and friendship he carries for his sister. He forces the component into place, and the lever groans, then snaps, sending a cascade of water across the courtyard. The nobles cheer, believing the flood is a miracle, while Lloyd feels the sting of failure and the weight of his sister's disappointed eyes.
A flood of unanswered questions crashes over Lloyd as fans flood the comment box. He types a brief apology, promising he can only answer what's asked, then signs off with a quirky emoticon. The terse reply leaves readers hanging, craving more details about the plot's mysteries. The silence after his message feels heavier than any critique. He realizes his silence fuels speculation, driving the hype higher. The price of that silence is a growing gap between creator and audience. But the real problem is already in motion. You feel the irritation building as Lloyd sketches Go Jaeyoung, an extra destined for oblivion. Suho Lloyd darts into the cramped rooftop hallway, heart pounding as the night wind whistles through broken windows. The dim, looking for a place to hide the prototype blueprint he just finished. A sudden clatter from the stairwell signals the guards approach, blocking his escape route. He grabs a loose pipe, slams it against the rail, and throws himself into a hidden alcove, muffling his breath. The guard passes, clueless, while Suho Lloyd's mind races. He must keep the design safe or the family's debt will crush them all. The night's silence hides a ticking clock.
Suho Lloyd bursts into the cramped rooftop hallway, clutching the prototype blueprint as the giant hamster's roar shakes the rafters, forcing him to conceal his creation before the night wind snatches it away. He stakes his reputation on this fragile design, gaining a fleeting surge of validation while teetering on the edge of utter ruin, feeling his dreams teeter between triumph and catastrophic collapse. The glowing blueprint ignites the skeptical master builder's curiosity, yet unseen forces swirl above the unfinished tower, promising a showdown that could shatter Suho Lloyd's empire before sunrise.